Chapter 1094. Xiao Chen was happy to relax. He did not have to wear a conical bamboo hat, which would have been troublesome. The holy scions and holy daughters successfully broke through to the blue-robed emperor realm. This was within Xiao Chen's expectations, so he was not too surprised. When Xiao Chen arrived at the city gates, he released some of his aura and entered the city unobstructed. Xiao Chen had already anticipated that Bright Moon City would be extraordinarily bustling during the Four Seas Hero Gathering. However, when he arrived in the city, he was startled. The scene before him reminded him of the Five-Nation Youth Competition in the Sky Dome realm many years ago. Back then, the scene in Dragon Sealing City was no different from now. It had also been extraordinarily bustling. However, in terms of scale and grandeur, it could not be compared. Xiao Chen revealed a nostalgic expression. During the Five-Nation Youth Competition, Xiao Chen had been reserved and proud. At that time he had not feared any expert. However, he had not been confident of victory. Along the way, he had taken every battle seriously. After putting in a lot of effort, he had managed to climb to the top after much difficulty. Even now, Xiao Chen remembered the Little Dragon King, Xianyuan Zhantian, Yu Chenxi's Breaking Dawn, Gong Yangyu's Everlasting Universe Staff Technique, and the grudges between Bai Qi and Sima Lingxian. All the more, he could not forget the final battle with Chu Chaoyan. After that, Xiao Chen could finally say loudly, "Those who defeat me will be defeated by me. Those who wish to be defeated cannot be defeated by anyone." Now, Xiao Chen no longer showed a reserved and proud expression. Instead, he showed calmness and confidence. All along, Xiao Chen had felt that his mental state and strength were much higher than these outstanding talents of the Heavenly Starry Ocean's younger generation. Even though these outstanding talents had become blue-robed emperors, and relied on the resources of their sex to become small perfection blue-robed emperors, they were still not enough for Xiao Chen to look at. The reason was none other than the vast difference in mental state, cultivation, and personal accumulations. There was no way to compare them. "Ao Jiao, what is the format of the Four Seas Hero Gathering and what are the rules?" Following the flow of people in the city, Xiao Chen watched the matches on the stage with great interest while asking Ao Jiao about the details of the Four Seas Hero Gathering. Ao Jiao and Little Yellowfeather were currently taking care of the various spirit trees in the Immortal Spirit Ring. Xiao Chen quickly replied, "I don't recall there being any rules. It is just that whoever can outshine everyone else can snatch the top prize." Xiao Chen stopped and said in surprise, "So casual?" "That's right. Other than the first few who had to deal with the cultivators of the Penglai Sea, there weren't a lot of cultivators." From then on, the Four Seas Hero Gathering has continued very casually. There are no hard and fast rules, and there is no need to go through the complicated format of the preliminaries and finals. Ao Jiao spoke frankly with assurance. Then she continued, "There are no contestants. Every spectator is the main character. As long as you are confident, you can jump into the arena and challenge any of the holy scions. If you win, your name will spread throughout the world. If you lose, you will not be able to avoid physical pain. In serious cases, you might end up with some hidden injuries that will accompany you for life." Xiao Chen asked doubtfully, "Then there will be close to 1 million spectators. If everyone goes up once, won't it be a mess? The gathering will last for half a month, and it will not be over." Ao Jiao smiled and said, "That won't happen. There are experts in the Lunar Palace. Everyone has to survive a palm strike before they can enter. It can be considered a threshold. The threshold for every gathering is different. I believe the threshold for this year will be especially high." Xiao Chen thought to himself, unexpectedly, it is not an elimination competition like the arena competition. To think that the so-called gathering is so casual. It is a competition of individual elegance. This is truly unexpected. Ao Jiao burst out laughing and said, "What are you worried about? It is a competition of elegance. However, if one is not strong enough and gets beaten up like a pig's head, how can there be elegance? In the end, it still depends on whose fist is harder. As long as you keep beating up others and not being beaten up, elegance will naturally come out." Xiao Chen understood. That's right. While it is elegance, in the end it is strength. Suddenly Xiao Chen frowned. Then he stretched out his right hand to his shoulder and firmly grasped a wrist. Xiaochen remained expressionless as he looked back. When he saw the owner of the arm, his pupils constricted, and shock appeared in his eyes. Brother Qi, it has been a long time. The person who came was Qi Wuxia, whom Xiaochen had not seen since he parted ways in Neptune's palace. Qi Wuxia smiled embarrassedly and said, "Let go first. The city does not allow private fights. If you still do not let go, the lunar palace's guards will be here soon." When Xiaochen heard that, he sent out his spiritual sense. Indeed, he saw a few sharp gazes directed at him. If he had any killing qi, he would have taken action immediately. Xiaochen quickly let go and asked, "Why do I not see Long Fei? Didn't he come with you?" When Qi Wuxia heard that, he smiled jealously. Comparisons are odious. This fellow found an opportunity to break through to the blue-robed emperor, and is preparing to show off his skills at the Four Seas Hero Gathering. This brother is barely a great grandmaster level martial sage. He is currently challenging the 24 bridges. It is a very interesting arena. Come, Brother Xiao, I'll bring you over to take a look. Seeing Qi Wuxua's mysterious appearance piqued Xiaochen's interest. During the Four Seas Hero Gathering, there were many interesting arenas in Bright Moon City. The next sentence of the 24 moonlit bridges was, "Where can a beautiful person learn how to play the flute?" What was so special about this arena? This Bright Moon City is rather fun. That brat Long Fei is really reckless. I really look forward to seeing how he will be defeated. Qi Wuxia laughed heartlessly. Then he led Xiaochen on a mad dash and arrived at a bustling place. Excuse me. Qi Wuxia led Xiaochen to a quiet, desolate viewing spot, ignoring the supercilious looks from others. Xiaochen looked to the front and saw an arch bridge carved from white jade on a clear river. The jade bridge was exquisite and ancient, but the beauty on the jade bridge was beautiful. However, the beauties on the jade bridge were even more beautiful than the bridge. They looked even more ancient and ancient. Many white-clad women were outstanding beauties with outstanding grace. When Xiaochen counted, there were a total of 24 at the end of the jade bridge. A veiled woman stood on the railing of the bridge, playing the flute. The music was melodious and pleasant to the ears. It sounded like she was weeping. The other 23 women held swords in their hands. Their eyes shone with a cold light as they weaved through the jade bridge. Their movements were elegant, but filled with murderous intent. Together with the illusory flute music, they performed a murderous dance. Xiaochen looked into the distance. It was clearly daytime, but a full moon hung high in the sky. The moonlight was like fire, its cold light competing with the sun, completely suppressing the light of the sun. Those familiar with Bright Moon City knew that this was the mysterious and ethereal lunar palace of the heavenly starry ocean. It hung high in the sky all year round, its light forever suppressing the sun. The bright moon, the jade bridge, the flute music, the flowing water, and the sword dance. This scene was very beautiful and pleasing to the eye, making one reluctant to leave. When Xiaochen returned to the jade bridge, the one bitterly enduring the murderous sword dance of the 23 women was naturally the corpse race's white-boned sovereign's descendant, Long Fei. Qi Wuxia was at the side, nodding and exchanging opinions with Xiaochen, discussing the various beauties of the women on the bridge. They all have their own specialties. It is really hard to choose. Brother Xiao, help me choose one. This time, I have to bring a lunar palace disciple back to Bright Moon City. Aside from the Holy Daughter, the other female disciples of the lunar palace could marry. Furthermore, the outstanding youths and noble clan disciples of the heavenly starry ocean all took pride in marrying a lunar palace disciple. The matriarchs of several holy lands and noble clans were once lunar palace disciples. From a certain point of view, the lunar palace's special status today seemed to be related to this. However, it would be difficult for Qi Wuxia to marry a female disciple. He could not hide his evil aura. After checking his background, even if the young lady agreed, the lunar palace would not. However, Xiaochen had never heard of a lunar palace female disciple marrying into the primal chaos domain. Without needing Xiaochen to refute, someone at the side could no longer bear to listen. Rolling his eyes, he said, "Aside from the Holy Daughter, the lunar palace also has the title of Jade Lady. There are 24 of them in each generation. The 24 people before us are the 24 jade ladies of the lunar palace. These are the daughters-in-law of the many immortal holy lands and noble clans. With your appearance, you want to marry the lunar palace's jade ladies? Stop dreaming. When Qi Wuxia heard this, he smiled faintly and did not get angry. Instead, he sized up this person. This person wore white robes and wore a white hat, looking very scholarly. He held a white folding fan in his hand, looking elegant and handsome. With one look, it was clear that he was a disciple of a Confucian sect. Qi Wuxia leaned over and said with a smile, "You have extraordinary grace and a righteous aura. You should be a disciple of a Confucian sect, right? I have not asked for your great name yet." A trace of pride flashed on the scholar's face. Then he said in a somewhat indifferent tone, "I am untalented. I am Lu Hao, an inner courtyard disciple of the Heavenly Province Academy." Qi Wuxia immediately showed a shocked expression. He exclaimed in an exaggerated manner, "Heavenly Province Academy? To think that you are a disciple of an immortal holy land. I simply could not tell earlier. Sorry. Clearly, Lu Hao felt extremely satisfied with the shock and astonishment on Qi Wuxia's face. He put on an act and waved his hand. "It is just an immortal holy land. Just treat it normally. Also, when facing the lunar palace's jade ladies, you cannot have any profane thoughts. You can look at them from afar, you can praise them, you can admire them. However, you cannot have any dirty thoughts. That is the way of a gentleman." Qi Wuxia nodded and said, "Brother Lu is right. This little brother did have some dirty thoughts earlier. Fortunately, Brother Lu reminded me in time." Xiaochun, who stood at the side, found it funny. With one look, he knew that Qi Wuxia was trying to con him. However, Xiaochun could not be bothered to remind Qi Wuxia. He did not have a good impression of this bookworm who spoke of benevolence, righteousness and morality. As long as Qi Wuxia did not go overboard and cause trouble, it would be fine. Qi Wuxia was a yes man, continuously flattering that Heavenly Province Academy disciple. By now, that Heavenly Province Academy disciple could no longer tell north from south. The two walked to the side and started chatting. "Speaking of which lunar palace's jade lady does Brother Lu admire the most?" Lu Hao had a righteous expression on his face. A fervent look flashed in his eyes as he looked at the girl playing the flute. Naturally, it is the leader of the 24 jade ladies, Miss Fang Qingxian, who excels in both the sword and the flute. Qi Wuxia nodded meaningfully and said, "Miss Fang Qingxian is indeed like a fairy descending to the mortal world. She has an aura that can topple cities. However, I wonder what kind of pretty face she has under the veil." Chapter 1095. The fire in Lu Hao's eyes did not subside, and he said with some reluctance, "It's a pity that Miss Fang Qingxian will only be able to take off her veil after crossing the 20 bridges and have the chance to be alone with her." Looking at the bridge, even with the strength of the blue-robed emperor, Long Fei was having a hard time moving forward. He was on the verge of losing at any moment. He knew that Lu Hao did not stand a chance. Qi Wuxia whispered, "Actually, this little brother has an item that can not only allow Fang Qingxian to remove Brother Lu's veil, but also allow her to play the flute for Brother Lu alone." Lu Hao looked at Qi Wuxia doubtfully and asked, "What is it?" "Yin Yang Wonderland's holy medicine, the wondrous pleasure aphrodisiac. As long as you have it and find an opportunity to meet Fang Qingxian, Brother Lu can easily take her down." A look of surprise flashed across Lu Hao's eyes. It was obvious that he had heard of the famous ecstasy potion. However, a look of surprise flashed across his face as he angrily cursed, "Filthy, despicable, vulgar scram." When Qi Wuxia saw Lu Hao getting angry, he showed a flustered expression as if he was frightened. He quickly said, "This little brother knows his mistake. This little brother knows his mistake. This little brother will take his leave now." "Stop." Lu Hao shouted coldly and stopped Qi Wuxia. With a righteous expression, he said, "Hand over your filthy thing. If it remains in your hands, it will definitely harm the women of your maiden clan. Hand it over to this young master." Qi Wuxia appeared depressed, clearly unwilling. Lu Hao said coldly, "With one look, I can tell that you do not have a proper background. Indeed, you are not anything good. This filthy thing has to be destroyed. Quickly hand it over." Qi Wuxia reluctantly took out a jade bottle. Lu Hao grabbed it and frowned. He asked doubtfully, "This is the wondrous joy aphrodisiac?" Qi Wuxia smiled harmlessly. Then he sent out some hidden energy and flicked off the bottle cap. He smiled and said, "Whether it is real or fake, young Master Lu will know once you smell it." When the bottle cap was opened, a fragrance immediately wafted out. When Lu Hao heard what Qi Wuxia said, he could not help but take a deep sniff. As if he was addicted, he could not stop once he started. Not long after, Lu Hao's face was flushed red and he felt his body heating up. His mouth was parched and his body was burning with desire. He suddenly startled awake and tossed aside the jade bottle. Then he looked at Qi Wuxia and said, "You tricked me." Qi Wuxia laughed loudly and stepped forward. Then he easily restrained Lu Hao, whose rationality was about to collapse. He said, "How could it be a trap? I am just fulfilling young Master Lu's wishes. Don't you want to meet this Miss Fang Qingxian? I'll help you right now." Then Qi Wuxia picked up Lu Hao and quickly tossed him to Fang Qingxian, who was on the jade bridge. The effects of the medicinal energy had already taken effect on Lu Hao, who had already lost all reason. His entire being was dominated by desire. When he saw Fang Qingxian, he sped up in the air like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey. His face was filled with lust as he threw himself at Fang Qingxian with a wretched smile. This scene immediately shocked everyone on the jade bridge. Unexpectedly, someone dared to do something improper to the leader of the Lunar Palace's jade ladies in front of everyone. Fang Qingxian, who had been playing her flute calmly, clearly did not expect such a thing. When she saw Lu Hao's lewd smile in the air, her flute music immediately turned chaotic. A cold light flashed in her eyes. She put down her flute and drew her sword with her right hand. Then she heavily smacked Lu Hao's face, knocking him into the river. Without the flute music, the murderous sword dance of the 23 white-clad women immediately lost a certain charm, and its might decreased significantly. Long Fei took advantage of this opportunity and waved the folding fan in his hand. Starlight filled the sky, and a white-boned dermic incarnation appeared behind Long Fei, its expression solemn and cold. The two large white-boned hands of the white-boned dermic incarnation flashed quickly. The formation of the 23 white-clad women fell into chaos, all of them dealing with it in a flurry. Long Fei's eyes narrowed. His figure weaved through the crowd and struck them one by one. One by one, the white-clad women were knocked off the jade bridge by Long Fei. On the riverbank, Qi Wuxia picked up the jade bottle and said with a smile, "My treasure, you have rendered a meritorious service again." Xiaochen walked over and said indifferently, "Give me the jade bottle." Qi Wuxia was stunned when he heard that. Then he chuckled and said, "What's wrong? Brother Xiao, you like this as well?" Xiaochen smiled and said, "I am different from you. I intend to study it with a critical mind." Qi Wuxia tossed the jade bottle over and smiled. "Brother Xiao is indeed Brother Xiao. The moment you said that, you immediately set yourself apart from that Heavenly Province Academy disciple." After Xiaochen walked over, he leaned over and said, "In the future, if you have anything good, remember to give it to Brother Qi as well. I want to study it with a critical mind." Xiaochen opened the bottle cap and took a sip. Then he looked at Qi Wuxia and said, "This is just an intense aphrodisiac, not some wondrous joy aphrodisiac." Qi Wuxia was dumbfounded as he watched from the side. He had not expected Xiaochen to dare to directly drink it. He had no choice but to admit defeat. "You are incredible. Naturally, this is not the wondrous joy aphrodisiac." The wondrous joy aphrodisiac is a holy medicine of the yin-yang paradise. Aphrodisiac is just one of its functions. The more important thing is that it can harmonize yin and yang, nourishing each other. When used with the yin-yang paradise's dual cultivation technique, it has a miraculous effect. As Qi Wuxia spoke, Xiaochen took another sip. As Qi Wuxia spoke, he became speechless. He was stunned once more, not knowing what Xiaochen was doing. "Brother Xiao, don't do anything stupid. Although this is not the wondrous joy aphrodisiac, its pure aphrodisiac effect is even more tyrannical than the wondrous joy aphrodisiac. I do not have an antidote," Qi Wuxia said anxiously. Who would have imagined that Xiaochen would only blush slightly? He did not seem to notice anything strange. Xiaochen closed his eyes and circulated his energy for a while. Then, strands of smoke appeared above Xiaochen's head. After a while he opened his eyes, and he returned to normal. Xiaochen looked at Qi Wuxia seriously and said, "Brother Qi, although unorthodox methods can achieve miraculous results, they are not omnipotent at times. Before absolute strength, everything else is just a fabrication. It is fine to use it occasionally. However, do not get too engrossed in it. Otherwise, one day, you will die because of these unorthodox methods. Once you reach small perfection of the blue-robed emperor, these aphrodisiacs and poisons will not pose any danger to you. With the power of the heavenly laws, you can break down these medicines as you please. With just a thought, you can decide whether you want them to work or not. You can easily paralyze your opponent." Qi Wuxia suddenly startled awake. He understood Xiaochen's intention, to treat him as a friend. Xiaochen used the most realistic example to tell himself not to use these unorthodox methods. This also reminded Qi Wuxia not to use these methods on experts above small perfection Emperor Wu. Otherwise, the other party would make a fool out of him. Seeing Qi Wuxia enter deep thought, Xiaochen knew that he had already achieved his goal. Back in the Sea Deity Palace, Qi Wuxia's cultivation was no weaker than Long Fei's. However, Long Fei had reached the blue-robed emperor ahead of him, while Qi Wuxia was still a great grandmaster-level martial sage. The two of them had been together for a long time. Why was there a difference? It was definitely not because Qi Wuxia's fortuitous encounter had not arrived. Instead, it was because Qi Wuxia was somewhat engrossed in these unorthodox methods. Hence, Xiaochen reminded the other party. Whether it was useful or not, at the very least, he took action and did not watch Qi Wuxia get engrossed. Qi Wuxia recovered his wits and smiled. "Brother Xiao, thank you for your kind intentions earlier. Originally, Long Fei had been trying to dissuade me. However, I did not take it to heart. Earlier, I did feel like I woke up from a dream." Xiaochen smiled faintly and said, "It's good that you understand. However, I like your earlier style. These hypocrites, who are hypocrites and like to pretend to be elegant, should be taught a ruthless lesson." Qi Wuxia chuckled and said, "This kind of sanctimonious people are all like that. However, you seem to have let Long Fei off easy. After he passes this special arena of the 24 bridges, he will be able to meet a beauty." Xiaochen glanced at the Jade Bridge and changed the topic. Long Fei smiled and said, "It will not be that easy. Fang Qingxian, who is guarding the end, is the greatest problem. The reputation of excelling in both the flute and the sword is not just for show." After defeating all 23 women, Long Fei finally arrived at the end of the Jade Bridge. Now he faced the leader of the Lunar Palace's Jade Ladies, Fang Qingxian, excelling in both the flute and the sword. Fang Qingxian blocked in front of Long Fei with her sword. Her expression was cold, and no one could see her true expression. Long Fei felt somewhat infatuated with her. He smiled and said, "Miss Qingxian, will you show mercy? When I was still in the Kunlun continent, I heard of Mrs. Name and have admired you for a long time." Fang Qingxian replied in a melodious voice, "I am indebted to young master's favor. However, rules are rules. Since young master is able to cross this bridge, Qingxian will naturally abide by her promise." Long Fei withdrew his smile and said sullenly, "In that case, I can only offend you." Just at this moment, water splashed in the river below the bridge. Lu He, who Fang Qingxian had slapped back into the river earlier, leaped out again. Drenched, he pounced at Fang Qingxian like a madman. Fang Qingxian had no choice but to make another move, knocking him into the water. When he came back to his senses, he discovered that Long Fei had already taken the opportunity to fly out of the bridge. Qi Wuxia shouted, "Damn! He really got off easy." Long Fei turned around and said calmly, "Miss Qingxian, I have already crossed the bridge." Fang Qingxian smiled faintly and said, "Aren't you embarrassed to say that? Don't you feel like you took advantage of a loophole?" Long Fei was rather thick-skinned. He took out an engraved medallion and smiled without changing his expression. "I can only say that the heavens are helping me. Who could have imagined that the normally well-dressed Confucian sect disciple would be such a beast in human clothing? I hope that Miss Qingxian will not stand me up tonight." Fang Qingxian took the nameplate, which had Long Fei's address written on it. She glanced at it and put it away. Just as he was about to speak, Lu Hao leapt out from the river once again, like an unkillable cockroach. Feng Qingxian frowned slightly. Just as she was about to deal a heavy blow, a figure suddenly flew over, moving incredibly fast. That person quickly landed 3 palm strikes on Lu Hao's chest, causing him to vomit a mouthful of black blood. The flush on his face receded. When he looked at the person who arrived, he immediately said excitedly, "First senior brother, someone tricked me." The person who arrived was the top expert of the Heavenly Province Academy's younger generation, young Master Qingshu, who was currently in the limelight. Young Master Qingshu did not say anything. He bent over and checked Lu Hao's body. Then he said indifferently, "My Confucian sect is righteous. We have a strong restraining effect on such evil beings. If not for your own evil intentions, you would not have lost your mind so quickly. You asked for it." After saying that, young Master Qingshu turned to Feng Qingxian and said, "Miss Feng, this time, our academy's disciples have offended you. The Heavenly Province Academy will not object to any punishment from the Lunar Palace." Young Master Qingshu's words were very appropriate, and no one could find fault with them. Chapter 1096. Feng Qingxian said indifferently, "I'm fine. Just take care of your sect's disciples." Young Master Qingshu performed a cupped fist salute in thanks. Then he shifted his gaze and looked in the direction Lu Hao pointed. When he saw Qi Wuxia, his expression turned completely sullen. This time, young Master Qingshu was having a small gathering with the inheritors of the Holy Lands, Fu Hongyao, and the others. Suddenly, he received news that an academy disciple went berserk in the 24 bridges, so he immediately rushed over. After young Master Qingshu figured out the situation, he became enraged. To think that someone dared to scheme against the Heavenly Province Academy. Just as young Master Qingshu was about to make a move, he suddenly noticed the white figure beside Qi Wuxia. Feeling somewhat surprised, he said coldly, "I was wondering who was so bold, daring to scheme against the people of my Heavenly Province Academy. It turns out that the Blue Dragon King ordered it." Unexpectedly, the righteous Blue Dragon King would do such a despicable thing. Upon hearing young Master Qingshu's words, everyone immediately looked at Xiao Chun, finding this inconceivable. To think that the Blue Dragon King Xiao Chun was so ordinary, like a passerby. They had not noticed him for so long. Feng Qingshuan's eyes lit up. She immediately looked at Xiao Chun and revealed an expression of shock. "Damn. Can you stop making irresponsible remarks? That medicine is your Heavenly Province Academy disciple. He snatched it from me and wanted to frame the Lunar Palace's jade ladies. What does that have to do with us?" Qi Wuxia scolded. Lu Hao panicked. His brain was not working properly, so he blurted out, "First senior brother, listen to my explanation. It was that brat who said that the medicine was the wondrous joy aphrodisiac. That's why I fell for it. You really can't blame me." When Feng Qingxian heard that, her expression changed. She scolded angrily. "What a perverted thief." Qi Wuxia laughed loudly and said, "Everyone, did you hear that?" He admitted it himself. If that young Master Qingshu can still distinguish right from wrong, you should clean up your sect. Young Master Qingshu said coldly, "You speak without thinking. Do you really think that a has-been Blue Dragon King can protect you? Die." Young Master Qingshu understood that he could not get entangled with a person like Qi Wuxia. The more he spoke, the worse the situation would become. So he could not be bothered to say anything more. His figure flashed, and he closed the folding fan in his hand as he charged at Qi Wuxia. Qi Wuxia was somewhat surprised by young Master Qingshu's sudden attack. Bright Moon City strictly forbade private fights. If there were grudges, they could fight in the arena in the city. The prerequisite was that both parties had to be willing. Otherwise, if they acted on their own, they would be punished by Bright Moon City. Clearly, this young Master Qingshu wanted to use his status to kill Qi Wuxia in one strike. At that time, Qi Wuxia would already be dead. Even if Bright Moon City punished him, there would be nothing to fear. Could it be that he, the successor of an immortal holy land, was really going to be thrown out? Young Master Qingshu moved very fast. Qi Wuxia could not even catch his shadow. Long Fei, who was behind the jade bridge, could not make it in time to help. Dang. In the time it took for a spark to fly, an intense clash resounded in the surroundings, startling Wuxia. He discovered that Xiaochen was blocking in front of him. Xiaochen also held a folding fan in his hand. He folded it and pressed it against the top of young Master Qingshu's folding fan. Young Master Qingshu did not appear surprised. He smiled and said, "In the past, when you were still a blue-robed emperor, I was somewhat afraid of you. Now that I am also a small perfection blue-robed emperor, do I still fear you?" It seemed like young Master Qingshu intended to test out Xiaochen's strength. After failing to injure Wuxia in one strike, he immediately targeted Xiaochen. Puchi. Young Master Qingshu suddenly opened the folding fan in his hand. His fingers moved slightly, and the unfurled folding fan danced like flower petals, spiraling up. As the folding fan rose, the righteous qi on young Master Qingshu's body grew increasingly stronger. His aura soared continuously. A mysterious phenomenon appeared behind him. The bamboo and small bridges drawn on the folding fan appeared one by one. The spirited righteous qi looked like bamboo standing tall. Xiaochen took a look and opened the folding fan in his hand as well. Then he gently pushed it forward, and the folding fan floated up. The small bridge, the flowing water, the bright moon and other mysterious phenomena appeared as well. The two both had a bridge under their feet. However, the mysterious phenomena behind them were different. One had a bright moon, and the other had emerald green bamboo. The two rising folding fans faced each other, competing with their strong auras and mysterious phenomena. The two on the bridge did not remain idle either. They quickly exchanged attacks, exchanging punches and palms, dealing with moves as they came. Xiaochen felt somewhat surprised. This young Master Qingshu's palm technique was rather exquisite. Furthermore, it contained a righteous qi that resonated with the bamboo behind him, complementing each other. If Xiaochen did not bring out his true abilities, he would not be able to do anything to this young Master Qingshu for a while. However, this was not the time to expose his strength. There were many eyes in this place. Xiaochen noticed that the experts of Bright Moon City had already arrived silently. For some reason, those experts did not make a move to stop the two from fighting. Apart from that, there were also several powerful auras rushing over. Some of them had terrifying righteous qi, and their cultivation bases were extremely high. With one look, it was clear that these were the Heavenly Province Academy's experts. Hence, Xiaochen was not in a rush. He just treated it as playing with the other party. As for young Master Qingshu's clamoring, Xiaochen just laughed it off. As an adult, would you be angry at a brat showing his teeth? Clearly not. Right now, that was Xiaochen's mental state. He did not feel angry at all. Compared to Xiaochen's surprise, young Master Qingshu was utterly shocked. He had already brought out 60% of his strength, even bringing out his will of wood. However, Xiaochen, who was fighting him, seemed unaffected. He did not even bring out the saber Dao that he was most proficient in. After exchanging 100 moves, Xiaochen lost the patience to continue playing. Suddenly he changed his moves. He used fists, claws and palms, executing 3 different moves. Xiaochen did not increase his strength at all, but his moves became unpredictable and strange. The fist was the Kuan-Peng spreading wings, the claw was the craggy dragon claw, and the palm technique was the bright moon like fire. Xiaochen took the essence of each and ingeniously merged them together. This was the first time young Master Qingshu saw such a move. He immediately felt overwhelmed, opening up many openings. If young Master Qingshu knew what was good for him, he would have quickly retreated at this moment. However, young Master Qingshu was not convinced. He still wanted to clash with Xiaochen, to determine who was stronger with fists and palms. Seeing that the other party wanted to fight for real, Xiaochen found an opening and punched young Master Qingshu's chest. The fist turned into a claw, then a palm. With just one contact, Xiaochen sent out 3 different kinds of energy. Young Master Qingshu grunted and fell to the ground. The ancient wooden bridge under his feet shattered, and the bamboo for 5 kilometers around exploded like firecrackers. The mysterious phenomenon spread out. Xiaochen stretched out his hand, and the folding fan landed in his grasp. The bright moon, exquisite flowing water, and many other mysterious phenomena combined into a charming illusion that entered the fan. Xiaochen gently fanned himself with his folding fan, and his white robes fluttered as he descended. His casual movements gave everyone a sense of carefreeness that was pleasing to the eye. After young Master Qingshu landed, he clearly did not expect that after becoming the blue-robed emperor after much difficulty and exhausting many of the sect's resources, he would still suffer a great loss at Xiaochen's hands. Young Master Qingshu waved his hand and grasped his folding fan. His aura suddenly changed, rising again as he prepared to fight with all his might. Enough. Young Master Qingshu, don't forget where this is, Qingxian said coldly from the Jade Bridge. Young Master Qingshu's expression changed. Finally he calmed down. Then he looked at Xiaochen and said, I know why you are here. You want to take away the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet in the Four Seas Hero Gathering 3 days from now. I will absolutely not let you do as you wish. Xiaochen smiled faintly and said, I'm just afraid that you do not have that ability. The Blue Dragon King is still as arrogant as ever. A cold snort rang out. A large group of outstanding youths flew over from the northeast. The holy scions of the Zodiac Hall, the 5 Poison Sect, the Divine Dragon Palaces of the 4 Seas, the Yinyang Paradise, and the Myriad Fiend Island all appeared together. There were also the young Treasure Master Yi Ling, the Lunar Palace's holy daughter, Yu Bingyun, and some of the veteran outstanding talents of the previous 5 Seas Hero Gathering. Clearly, someone had gathered this group of outstanding talents of the heavenly starry ocean earlier. Chu Yang stepped forward and looked at Xiaochen below. He said indifferently, I was wondering why Brother Qingshu was gone for so long. It turns out that you are still around. The 5 Poison Sect's holy scion said coldly, You are just a has-been genius of the Kunlun continent. Yet you dare to be so unbridled in our heavenly starry ocean. Do you really think that we outstanding talents are just decorations? The crowd below became restless. Unexpectedly, the commotion on the 24 bridges attracted so many outstanding talents. Furthermore, several of the holy scions seemed to be prejudiced against Xiaochen, not acknowledging him as an outsider. Xiaochen sized up the group of people in the air. They all had different expressions, but they all appeared to be in high spirits, full of pride and arrogance. He understood that when these people fought for the source of despair in Despair City, they were all shocked by the strength he displayed. Several people wanted to challenge him, but they were not confident. Now that he had advanced to the blue-robed emperor, they were naturally eager to step on him. Xiaochen, things seem to have gotten a little out of hand, Qi Wuxia, who was at the side, said in a soft voice, finding it hard to control himself. Xiaochen replied calmly, They will not dare to act rashly in Bright Moon City. Let's go. After saying that, Xiaochen ignored the mockery of the holy science. He called out to Long Fei and prepared to leave. Such an attitude immediately angered several people. Several of them could not hold back, and wanted to make a move. When Yu Bingyun saw the situation, she said indifferently, Bright Moon City prohibits private fights. If you have any grudges, wait until the Four Seas Hero Gathering 3 days from now. Chu Yang snorted coldly and glanced coldly at Xiaochen's back. Then he flicked his sleeves and left. What Blue Dragon King? He is just a coward. The 5 Poison Sect's holy scion mocked and left with his head held high. The many other outstanding talents also scoffed at Xiaochen's actions. They felt that he was afraid, which was why he did not dare to face them. Soon, the news of the Blue Dragon King Xiaochen, who had been missing for 9 months, appearing in Bright Moon City spread like wildfire. Earlier, several people guessed that Xiaochen, who had only 20 years left to live, would absolutely not appear. When a person received such grievous news and faced heavy mental pressure, not to mention improving their strength, it would already be a good thing if they did not regress. Right now, Xiaochen was like the setting sun in the west, the setting sun. Chapter 1097. As for the outstanding talents of the heavenly starry ocean, they were like the sun rising from the east. The blazing sun blazed like fire, growing stronger by the day. What was there to compare? Xiaochen had come to Bright Moon City, just to let a group of outstanding talents who had advanced to blue-robed emperor trample on him and soar, ruining his reputation. Long Fei and Qi Wuxia arrived at Bright Moon City a month ago. They were luckier than most people and managed to rent a quiet and elegant courtyard. The three chatted, talking about the past after they parted. Both sides had their own fortuitous encounters. Long Fei and Qi Wuxia's luck should be pretty good. They had visited several forbidden lands in the Eastern Sea and gained pretty good harvests. Long Fei relied on an even more persistent and determined character than Qi Wuxia's. His talent was not bad in the first place, so he successfully advanced to Quasi-Emperor 3 months ago. Xiaochen also gave a simple account of his encounters in the heavenly starry ocean. Then he expressed his gratitude for the clue to the despair throne that Long Fei gave him. It's just a small matter. I simply could not take out a proper congratulatory gift, so I used this to deceive them. When speaking of this matter, Long Fei smiled embarrassedly, telling Xiaochen not to stand on ceremony. Qi Wuxia interjected. Oh right, Xiaochen, didn't you obtain a conferred land? When are you going to bring us over to play? Xiaochen smiled and said, after this Four Seas hero gathering, the two of you can come with me to Heavenly Star Island. Long Fei hesitated for a while before saying, I'm afraid I can't go. Xiaochen understood that he had just advanced to blue-robed emperor and needed a large amount of resources to break through to small perfection. He needed to rush back to the corpse race to seek the support of his clan. Long Fei could advance to blue-robed emperor at such a young age. His future in the corpse race would definitely be bright. The corpse god palace would definitely use a large amount of resources to nurture him. Qi Wuxia smiled and said, you finally made it. Perhaps even the heaven-punishing corpse god's first disciple is no match for you now. Long Fei was silent for a while, then he shook his head and said, it's not that simple. Aside from me, the younger generation of the corpse god palace have all gone to the star battlefield. Their growth is very fast. The heaven-punishing corpse god's disciple has already advanced to the blue-robed emperor half a year ago. Xiaochen knew a little about the younger generation of the Kunlun continent going to the astral battlefield, but it was extremely limited. As for what was going on, he had no idea at all. Based on Long Fei's words, it seemed like the corpse god palace had made arrangements in the heavenly starry ocean as well, allowing him to easily obtain information about this. Xiaochen asked, did the younger generation of the Kunlun continent's 5 domains really go to the astral battlefield? Long Fei sighed softly. They all went. However, that place is really not a good place. From what I know, more than half of the outstanding youths have already died in the astral battlefield, never to return. The physical and combat talents of the high-level demons are much stronger than ours. Only the god race and a few powerful ancient races can fight them head-on. Right, there's one thing you need to pay special attention to. Feeling curious, Xiaochen asked, what is it? Long Fei said seriously, your old opponent, Diwuk, is probably the person who matured the fastest in the astral battlefield. Since he made his debut, he has never been defeated. After losing to you once, he truly matured. Xiaochen picked up his wine cup and took a sip. Then he said, that suits me. I also hope to have a fair fight with him. During the king conferral ceremony, Diwuk had taken advantage of the chaos to suppress Xiaochen while he was fighting with the descendants of the other primes. As for Xiaochen, he had relied on Ao Jiao's sudden appearance to turn the tables. In the end, the two had not truly fought to their heart's content. Qi Wuxia said indignantly, these so-called holy scions of the heavenly starry ocean are truly frogs in a well. They always think that they are very incredible. In the end, they are nothing compared to the outstanding talents of our Kunlun continent. Clearly, Qi Wuxia still remembered the earlier threat from the Heavenly Province Academy's young master Qingshu. Long Fei smiled and said, you can't say that. In terms of overall standards, the outstanding talents of the heavenly starry ocean are definitely weaker than the peak outstanding talents of the various races of the 5 domains. However, there are always oddities everywhere. You cannot underestimate them. I think that the inheritors of the immortal holy lands and the disciples of the large clans are not weak. They cannot be underestimated. Qi Wuxia knew that Long Fei was right. However, he still felt unconvinced. He shouted, Brother Xiao, help me teach this group of outstanding talents a lesson in the Four Seas hero gathering 3 days from now. especially that young master Qingshu. Let's see if he dares to be so arrogant in the primal chaos domain. Xiaochen smiled and did not say anything. Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows and put down his wine cup. Someone is here. Long Fei asked, finding this strange. Who would come here? Is it to look for Brother Xiao? Should Wuxia and I leave? Xiaochen shook his head and looked at Long Fei. There's no need. The ones who should leave are me and Wuxia. Your Miss Qingxian is here. What? Fang Qingxian is coming? I'll go and welcome her. I'll go and welcome her. Hee. When Qi Wuxia heard Xiaochen's words, he reacted even faster than Long Fei. He did not look like he wanted to leave at all. Long Fei, on the other hand, appeared calm. Finding this strange, he said, that should not be the case. Qi Wuxia still had some self-awareness. He had used a trick to cross the 24 bridges. Furthermore, when he gave the engraved medallion, Fang Qingxian did not say that she was coming. Soon, Fang Qingxian and Qi Wuxia arrived at the courtyard. Long Fei quickly stood up and walked over. Then he performed a cupped fist salute and said, "Unexpectedly, Miss Fang came as promised." Fang Qingxian smiled softly and said, "No matter what, rules are rules." Young Master Long broke the Jade Bridge Bright Moon formation. Naturally, Qingxian will abide by the rules. After saying that, Fang Qingxian removed her veil, revealing a nearly perfect face that no one could find any flaws. Under the moonlight, she looked even more serene and serene. Qi Wuxia and Long Fei were immediately stunned, unable to shift their gazes away. As Xiaochen drank, he raised his head and took a look. He praised her in his heart. She is indeed a rare beauty. She has her own unique charm. The leader of the Lunar Palace's Jade Ladies truly lives up to her reputation. Long Fei startled awake and hid his flustered expression. Then he smiled and said, "Have a seat. This courtyard is simple and crude, and there is nothing to entertain Miss Fang with. You guys chat. Wuxia and I have some matters to attend to, so we'll leave first." Xiaochen smiled and put down his wine cup. Then he pulled Qi Wuxia, who was unwilling to leave, away from this place, creating a chance for Long Fei and Fang Qingxian to be alone. After they left, Qi Wuxia sighed. "I gave a great beauty to Long Fei for nothing. This is really a great loss." Xiaochen smiled and said, "Actually, you have to think on the bright side. If Long Fei and Fang Qingxian really have a chance, your chances of finding a Lunar Palace disciple will be much higher." Qi Wuxia smiled and said, "There are thousands of female disciples in the Lunar Palace. However, who can compare to Fang Qingxian?" "Wait, that's not right. The Holy Daughter can." Unfortunately, the Holy Daughter cannot marry. As they chatted and laughed, the two returned to their respective rooms. Xiaochen maintained his good habits. After he returned to his room, he continued cultivating. Right now, his cultivation had already reached the peak of small perfection blue-robed emperor. If he wanted to advance further, a Holy Spirit vein would no longer be able to help him. 10,000 heavenly sage laws gave him a foundation that rivaled that of an ancient martial emperor when he entered the blue-robed emperor. However, this foundation was too great, resulting in his breakthroughs at every stage. All of them required countless more resources than ordinary cultivators. For example, if he did not have a king spirit vein, he would not be able to break through to great perfection blue-robed emperor. To merge his heavenly seal, he could only rely on time to slowly accumulate and break through bit by bit. However, what Xiaochen lacked the most was time. As for a king spirit vein, not to mention whether he could find it or not, Xiaochen knew his limits. Even if he found it, he would not be able to subdue it. For now, Xiaochen could only place his hopes on the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. When the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation broke through to the 8th layer, he would see if he could break through the bottleneck of the Great Perfection Blue-Robed Emperor. However, when Xiaochen thought about the lightning tribulation he encountered when breaking through to the 7th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation, the 8th layer would definitely be extraordinary. Dong, dong, dong. In the middle of the night, someone knocked on Xiaochen's door. Xiaochen opened his eyes and stopped cultivating. Then he opened the door. The one who knocked was the Lunar Palace's Jade Lady, Fang Qingxian. Xiaochen smiled and said, "It is late at night. Miss Qingxian, why are you here instead of returning to the lunar palace? Fang Qingxian smiled and said, Young Master Xiao, it looks like you are not as cold and emotionless as rumored. To think that you can make such a joke. I am here to invite young Master Xiao to accompany me to the lunar palace. The lunar palace was that bright moon in the sky. It seemed like it was unreachable to ordinary people. Even the honored guests of the immortal Holy Lands rarely heard of it. Xiaochen felt somewhat curious, wondering if he heard wrong. In that case, I am truly honored. Xiaochen did not hesitate to agree. He had always been curious about the lunar palace taking out the Dragon's Gates mountain tablet as a gift. Since there was a chance, naturally, it would be great if he could make a trip to the real lunar palace. As for the danger, there was no need to think about it. If the lunar palace wanted to harm him, there were countless opportunities to kill him in Bright Moon City. There was no need to go to such lengths. Fang Qingxian asked curiously, although the lunar palace has not invited a male for many years, you should not care about this. Why would you feel honored? Xiaochen smiled helplessly. He had run into a serious lady, so it was not good for him to say too much. He pointed to the front, indicating that she should just lead the way and not say anything else. There's no need. I have a jade talisman, and can send you over now. Without a jade talisman, even if you are Emperor Wu, you can forget about entering the lunar palace. Fang Qingshuan's tone contained some pride as she took out a bright moon jade talisman. Then she looked at Xiaochen and said, Extend your hand. Xiaochen sized up the other party doubtfully. Then he extended his hand. Fang Qingxian grasped the jade talisman with her left hand and grasped Xiaochen's hand with her right. After activating the jade talisman, Fang Qingshuan's body lit up with light. Then she carried Xiaochen away in a flash, disappearing from where they were. This was not the first time Xiaochen saw such a talisman, so he did not find it strange. However, when he felt a chill, When he felt a chill, Xiaochen opened his eyes and looked around. He discovered that he and Fang Qingxian had appeared on a tall platform. There was a complicated transportation formation under their feet. There was a girl standing guard in each corner. When they saw Fang Qingxian, they bowed gently. Greetings, Senior Sister Fang. Fang Qingxian let go of Xiaochen's hand and waved at her junior sisters. Then she said calmly, Follow me. Don't wander off. Chapter 1098. Xiaochen was looking around curiously. When he heard this, he quickly followed. A faint layer of cold qi rose from the ground of the lunar palace, looking like an immortal fog lingering. However, it was exceptionally cold. Even with Xiaochen's current cultivation, he felt a chill. This showed how cold it was. Fortunately, the lunar palace was filled with flowers and leaves. Occasionally, bell-like laughter came from the women moving about, driving away much of the chill in the lunar palace. Indeed, it was as Fang Qingxian said. There was not a single man in this place. Xiaochen's appearance was very eye-catching. Along the way, several young maidens pointed at him and whispered to each other. Xiaochen's six senses were very sharp. He could clearly hear all the whispers. He did not know whether to laugh or cry when he heard some of them, so he stopped paying attention to them. Fang Qingxian, who was leading the way, stopped. Xiaochen stopped as well. When he looked ahead, he saw an exquisite and beautiful palace made of white jade. The palace gates were heavily guarded. There were 1,000 steps of white jade, and there was a guard every 10 steps. There were 2 long lines of pretty girls carrying swords on their backs. Senior Sister Fang, you are finally here, a girl said to Fang Qingxian as she walked down the steps gracefully. Then she sized up Xiaochen curiously and asked, Are you the Azure Dragon King Xiaochen? Fang Qingxian nodded. You are the Azure Dragon King Xiaochen? Before Xiaochen could answer, Fang Qingxian smiled and said, Junior Sister Lan, there is no need to verify it. He is the one. You brought him up. Hehe. I was just asking casually. Come with me. At this point, Fang Qingxian no longer stepped forward, letting Xiaochen enter alone. After climbing the 1,000 steps, Xiaochen looked up and saw the words Meditation Moon Palace on the palace gates. Xiaochen paused for a moment. The words on the palace gates gave him a familiar feeling, making him feel exceptionally close. You may go in. The girl leading the way pushed open the doors and invited Xiao Chen in. Xiao Chen withdrew his gaze and walked in with large strides. The palace gates slowly closed behind him, but he did not see a single person in the palace. Just as he was feeling suspicious, "Young Master Xiao, we meet again." A familiar voice rang out. Yu Bingyun appeared from the back door, holding the arm of an old woman with a head full of white hair. The old woman's strength was unfathomable. Hidden within her frail body was a power that could destroy all things, causing Xiao Chen to shiver. However, there was a smell of decay on their bodies, and they were lethargic. They were no different from the three great fiends Xiao Chen met in Despair City. This was a sign of one's lifespan reaching its end, about to pass away in meditation. Unless one had exceptional spiritual medicines, it would be difficult for them to continue living. Furthermore, the old woman before them looked much older than the three old demons. Time and the marks left on her body were even deeper. Even a divine medicine that could extend one's lifespan would not have any effect on this old woman. Yu Bingyun whispered, "Master, he is the descendant of the Qing Emperor, the Blue Dragon King Xiao Chen." The old woman's footsteps waned. As she looked at Xiao Chen, she revealed a gentle smile. Her eyes filled with reminiscence as she said in a somewhat hoarse voice, "Bingyun, withdraw first. I want to speak with him alone." Yu Bingyun smiled faintly at Xiao Chen before withdrawing. Now, only Xiao Chen and the old woman before him remained in the spacious jade-white palace. "Young man, will you accompany this old woman for a chat?" Xiao Chen did not dare to delay. He nodded in agreement and walked over to help the old woman to a stone table in the corner of the palace. The old woman's voice trembled somewhat as she asked several questions about the Xiao clan in the lower realm. Xiao Chen did not understand, but he still explained everything in detail. As the old woman listened, tears flowed out of her eyes. She smiled bitterly and said, "What a distant memory. Back then, the ancestor of the Ying clan and I escorted your Xiao clan away. In the blink of an eye, another 10,000 years have passed. When I was alive, I was glorious. After I left, I did not expect that Xiao Chen's line would fall into such dire straits." Xiao Chen was shocked. Was the person the old woman mentioned referring to the Qing Emperor of the past? Could it be that she had met the Qing Emperor before? Or did the two of them have some sort of interaction? That was impossible. There was only one person from the same era as the Qing Emperor, the Thunder King. 10,000 years after the Qing Emperor died, he was still alive, shaking the world with his might. The Thunder King was already a miracle, a living legend, an immortal myth. It was impossible for there to be a second person from the same era as the Qing Emperor to be alive in this world. Even sovereign martial emperors could only live for 5,000 years. Only primes could live for more than 10,000 years. However, after 10,000 years, there would be a tribulation every year, known as the 10,000-year tribulation. Every time one survived a 10,000-year tribulation, the next one would double in intensity. Tribulation after tribulation was difficult. No one could survive it forever. Regular primes could only survive 9–10,000-year tribulation at most. Only the Thunder King was an exception. No one knew how he managed to survive for several thousand years in one go. Wait, it might not be impossible. Xiao Chen thought of the Lunar Palace's longevity art. That profound cultivation technique was still fresh in his memory. The old lady continued to ask questions about Xiao Chen, and they were all about himself. Xiao Chen suppressed the questions in his heart, and told the old woman about his encounters in the past few years. It is like how he was back then, surrounded by enemies. However, he suffered even more than you did when he was young. At that time, the deity race was far stronger than it is now. The land of the three holy masters was also much more glorious than it is now. At that time, the fiend race had fiend gods. The corpse god palace and the ghost race were much more high profile than they are now. However, he killed them all by himself. He killed anyone who was not convinced. He destroyed the souls of many primes. Countless sovereign martial emperors fell to his saber. He personally massacred a glorious age of geniuses. Xiao Chen had heard a little about the Qing Emperor's methods. Back then, the Qing Emperor had made too many enemies. After he died mysteriously, the Dragon's Gate crumbled overnight. However, The words of others were not as shocking as the old woman's. It was like a bloody scene appeared before Xiao Chen's eyes. At this point, Xiao Chen no longer doubted the old woman's identity. The vicissitudes in the old woman's words and the sorrow in her expression were not something that could be faked easily. If you were given another chance, would you regret announcing your identity as the Qing Emperor's descendant on the proud son of heaven ranking? The old woman changed the topic, asking Xiao Chen a question. That was the turning point for Xiao Chen in the Kunlun realm. Since then he had been facing heavy pressure. It could even be said that everything that happened now stemmed from that time when he publicly acknowledged his identity as the Qing Emperor's descendant. However, he did not regret it at all. Xiao Chen said calmly, "I don't regret it." The old woman did not ask why. She stood up tremblingly and sighed. "You don't regret it? That's right. From the moment you awakened the blue dragon martial spirit, you were destined not to regret it." Seeing that the old woman was about to leave, no longer interested in continuing the conversation, Xiao Chen quickly stood up. He still had many questions that he had not asked. However, the moment he stood up, he did not know which to ask. As the old woman slowly walked away, about to disappear around the corner of the palace, Xiao Chen asked, "Senior, can you tell me how the Qing Emperor died back then?" The old woman did not turn around. She only let out a drawn-out sigh. "Do you think that such a tyrannical person will have a good end? Since that is the case, it is better not to know." "Senior." Feeling anxious, Xiao Chen stepped forward and called out again. "Young Master Xiao, Master is tired. Let her rest." Yu Bingyan appeared and advised Xiao Chen, not letting him continue. It was not easy to meet such a person. In the end, it was the other party who kept asking him questions. After asking for so long, when Xiao Chen wanted to ask, the other party had already left. Xiao Chen felt it was a pity. However, he was not a person who liked to force things, so he just shook his head and let it go. "I can answer young Master Zhao's question." Xiao Chen's eyes lit up as he looked at Yu Bingyan with some disbelief. Yu Bingyan said calmly, "Actually, you should be able to guess how the Qing Emperor died. Just look at why so many holy lands and major characters want to kill you, and you will know." Xiao Chen asked, "You mean to say that people surrounded and killed the Qing Emperor?" Yu Bingyan nodded and said, "Why are there no traces of the Qing Emperor's death? That is because the various holy lands are too ashamed to record it. In every era, there will be a martial emperor who can sweep through the world, gathering the heavenly Tao's luck and becoming unrivaled. The era 10,000 years ago was the Qing Emperor. The era before the Qing Emperor was the Tianwu Emperor, who founded the Tianwu dynasty. Back then, for some reason, the Qing Emperor fell out with the Tianwu Emperor's inheritor, resulting in a huge battle. This battle not only shocked everyone, even destroying the Tianwu dynasty that the many factions of the Kunlun realm feared, but it also ended the legend of the Qing Emperor." Xiao Chen nodded. He knew about this. In the end, the Qing Emperor won. He even saw the heavenly flame's origin flame that the Qing Emperor used the deity sovereign's blood to seal in the Blue Dragon Palace. After that, the Tianwu dynasty vanished like smoke in the vast demonic calamity, becoming the legend and history of the Sky Dome realm. As for what happened after that, Xiao Chen was not clear. The records of the various factions stopped there as well. Then they suddenly jumped to the Qing Emperor's death and the destruction of the Dragon's Gate. "I know all this. I want to know what happened after that." Yu Bingyan did not rush to answer. Instead, she said, "Come with me." Xiao Chen followed Yu Bingyan all the way to a staircase. Then, they followed the staircase up and arrived at the top of the Meditation Moon Palace. Standing there, Xiao Chen could vaguely make out the silhouette of Bright Moon City. There were tens of thousands of lanterns lit up there, looking as bustling as ever. Yu Bingyan looked down and said, "Even if the descendants of the Tianwu Emperor are not as strong as their ancestors, they are not to be trifled with. Furthermore, they have the horrifying heavenly flame. Although the Qing Emperor killed the last Tianwu dynasty martial emperor, he was significantly injured. After that, he was surrounded by the 18 demon monarchs. However, he remained valiant, defeating the 18 demon monarchs. Even when the Dark Church's churchmaster made a move, he could not kill him, allowing him to retreat and return to the Kunlun realm. However, he did not receive a welcome in the Kunlun realm. Instead, he was surrounded. He did not get burned to death by the heavenly flame, or killed by the demon monarchs. Instead, he died at the hands of his own people in the Kunlun realm. When Xiaochen heard this, he entered deep thought. He felt that there were many points in Yu Bingyun's words that were worth discussing. Chapter 1099. For example, why did the Qing Emperor have a conflict with the Tianwu Emperor's inheritor? Why did the people of the Deep Abyss demonic race appear coincidentally? There were too many suspicious points. However, even if Xiaochen asked her, she probably would not know. All she could see were the records of the various holy lands. Yu Bingyun gave Xiaochen a strange look and said, "You seem rather calm." Xiaochen did not answer Yu Bingyun. Instead, he frowned and said, "You mentioned the Dark Church. How much do you know about this church?" "I don't know much. The founder and elders of this church are very mysterious. This is especially so for the church master. His status is no lower than the demon monarchs. They also created the demonic god. They have branches in the 3,000 lower realms." Indeed, there was not much. Xiaochen did not linger on this question. He asked, "What is the relationship between that old lady and the Qing Emperor?" When Yu Bingyun heard this, she revealed a somewhat sorrowful expression. She said indifferently, "You should have heard that in the history of the Lunar Palace, there was a holy daughter who fell in love with an outsider. That was my master." This was more or less what Yu Bingyun expected. Otherwise, she would not have asked Xiaochen so many seemingly ordinary questions. She was the most talented holy daughter in the history of the Lunar Palace. At the age of 20, she cultivated the longevity art to the 10th layer. Furthermore, she even completed the last 2 incomplete layers, making great contributions to the Lunar Palace. Unfortunately, she fell in love with someone she should not have. Her hair turned white, and she aged. She locked herself in this meditation moon palace for more than 10,000 years and gained nothing. Yu Bingyun continued, "I'm a little curious. What did my master ask you? In order to bring you to Bright Moon City and meet you, she sent you to Bright Moon City. In order to bring you to Bright Moon City and meet you, she ignored the palace master's objections and forcefully changed the most important gift of this 4 Seas hero gathering to the Dragon's Gates mountain tablet." Xiaochen felt somewhat sorrowful. After thinking for a while, he honestly told Yu Bingyun the contents of his conversation with the old lady. When Yu Bingyun heard this, she felt very surprised. Unexpectedly, this old lady spent so much effort to bring Xiaochen to Bright Moon City, just to ask him some trivial matters. After a long time, she said, "The 10,000 years in the Meditation Moon Palace did not erase her longing. I really want to see for myself how charming the Qing Emperor of 10,000 years ago was. What kind of charm did he have to move the Lunar Palace's holy daughter? Just how strong was he to be able to personally bury an entire golden age?" Honestly speaking, Xiaochen was very curious as well. However, speaking of which, although Master took out the Dragon's Gates mountain tablet, it will only benefit others. Yu Bingyun changed the topic, changing the topic to the Dragon's Gates mountain tablet. Xiaochen smiled and said, "Master of the sect, master of Xiao Clan's emperor." With a smile, Yu Bingyun looked seriously at Xiaochen and said, "Your heavenly seal is not complete yet. That is to say, you are still a small perfection blue-robed emperor. If it's just this, it's still a bit too difficult for you to stand out and dominate the crowd with your elegant demeanor. The most important thing is that you are an outsider. If you do not have an absolute advantage and defeat the various outstanding talents, the Lunar Palace's judges might not give you the top prize." Xiaochen's expression changed as he exclaimed, "There is such a thing? Isn't the Lunar Palace neutral?" "That's right. The Lunar Palace is indeed neutral. It will not get involved in the conflicts between you and the Holy Science. However, there are not many people in the Lunar Palace who have a good impression of the Qing Emperor. If you cannot create a situation where they have nothing to say and can't argue with you," Yu Bingyun continued unhurriedly, "even if your elegance is the most outstanding among all the outstanding talents, you might not be able to obtain the top prize." Xiaochen did not get angry, just somewhat shocked. After all, the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet was in the hands of the Lunar Palace. The Lunar Palace had not begged him to participate in the Four Seas hero gathering. He was the one who wanted to come. On the other hand, Yu Bingyan had said many things to him that she should not have. For example, the last part. As a member of the Lunar Palace, logically speaking, she should not have told him this information. Xiaochen did not think that he was the Qing Emperor, relying on his charm to subdue this holy daughter. He was not that naive. This Yu Bingyan before him was still unfathomable. He could not figure out her background or what she wanted. I'm leaving. Thank you for the final reminder. However, I have to obtain the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet. 3 days later, you will see a situation that will leave everyone speechless. I will use my own strength to let the Lunar Palace judge, and hand the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet to me. Xiaochen spoke calmly, but the expression on his face was extremely resolute. His gaze was as sharp as a sword, piercing through the sky. Yu Bingyan felt somewhat startled. Unexpectedly, after Xiaochen obtained her news, he did not feel frustrated or angry at all. His mental state did not show any openings at all. As Yu Bingyan watched Xiaochen jump off the Meditation Moon Palace and leave, she said softly, I really look forward to it 3 days later. I want to see whether you are confident or arrogant. 3 days later, Xiaochen, Qi Wuxia, and Long Fei woke up early and gathered in the courtyard. Qi Wuxia only intended to join in on the excitement of the Four Seas hero gathering. Of course, he did not expect to make a name for himself. As for Long Fei, he made ample preparations. He wanted to clash head-on with the holy science of the immortal Holy Lands, and see the distance between him and them. As for Xiaochen, his target was very clear. The Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet. He was here for the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet. Don't go yet. I'll pray to the gods first. Qi Wuxia held on to Long Fei and Xiaochen. Then he pressed his palms together and bowed to the east. Hehe. I hope that I, Qi Wuxia, can have a good time today. I hope that Long Fei can make a name for himself, and win the attention of many beauties. I hope that old brother Xiaochen can teach those holy science a lesson on my behalf. Long Fei smiled helplessly and said, There is no such thing as a god in this world. The deity race's methods are only used to trick ordinary people to obtain the power of faith. After Qi Wuxia finished bowing, he said mysteriously, Naturally, in this heavenly starry ocean, we worship the sea god. I heard that the sea god really exists at the end of the ocean. There are many believers in the vast oceanic world. Of course, the believers are just ordinary people. Cultivators rarely believe in such things. I heard that at the end of the ocean, Xiaochen had already reached the courtyard gates. He turned his head and said, Let's go. It's time to go to Bright Moon Plaza. Long Fei immediately followed. Qi Wuxia said, Wait for me. I'm not done yet. Bright Moon Plaza was very crowded, with many entrances. When the three arrived, there were no good spots left. They could only choose a relatively high spot in the periphery. Given their eyesight, they could clearly see the arena in the plaza, which was very far away. That was a vast arena with a formation laid by a sovereign martial emperor below, changing the laws of space. If one went deep into it, they would feel an even vaster space. Even if a peak consummation expert like the blue-robed emperor fought in there would be no need to worry about the shockwaves affecting the spectating cultivators. Many exquisite pavilions hovered in the air above the plaza. Those were the VIP pavilions that the Lunar Palace prepared for the various holy lands and large clans. At this moment, the gathering had not officially started yet. More than 1,000 female disciples performed the famous Bright Moon Sword Dance of the Lunar Palace. This was much larger than the scene that Long Fei participated in back then. The bright moon rose and fell, the sword images flashed, and the beauties danced. The performance before the opening was not boring at all. Qi Wuxia watched intently, clicking his tongue in praise. He said excitedly, Later, when the bright moon soars into the sky and the 10,000 swords fly together, the Four Seas hero gathering will officially start. Xiaochen watched interestedly. The bright moon above the arena glowed with a faint light. The 1,000 white-clad women looked like fairies dancing around the bright moon. There were also disciples playing flutes behind them. The one leading them was Fang Qingxian. The flute music spread out, merging with the sword dance. It was hard to tell who was leading and who was following. It was like they were in a dream. It was hard to tell whether they were immersed in the flute music or in the ever-changing bright moon sword dance. The flute music suddenly turned lofty and hot-blooded. That was the sound of killing, the hot-bloodedness hidden in every cultivator's body. Under the sound of the flute, he was completely ignited, burning fiercely. There was a flame burning in his chest. The 1,000 white-clad women formed a circle of swords. They all danced with their swords in different movements as they chanted sonorous and hot-blooded poems. When the flute music reached its climax, it suddenly stopped. A huge bright moon that could compete with the sun soared into the sky from the circle of swords. Many swords flew out of the hands of the white-clad women. Everyone was startled awake in that instant, shocked by the scene before them. Loud rumbling rang out. As the bright moon soared, the vast arena actually soared into the air as well, leaving the ground. After that, the arena split up and formed smaller arenas that hovered in midair. They were like stars surrounding the moon, serving as a contrast to the tallest and largest arena. Xiaoqin counted carefully. Not counting the largest arena, there were a total of 100 smaller arenas of varying heights. They surrounded the tallest arena, hovering in the air. On each of the small arenas, there were 10 white-robed women who did not leave. As for the largest arena, Fang Qingxian led 10 elite female disciples to guard it. Qi Wuxia explained, "Haha, it's finally starting. The first ones to face in the first stage are those 10 Lunar Palace disciples." Xiaoqin asked, "Does everyone have the qualifications to go up the arena? Is there a need for any additional explanation or declaration?" Long Fei had arrived early and was no stranger to this. He smiled and said, "Just be casual. Although the Four Seas hero gathering style is constantly changing, it has always been casual. This is to give everyone a chance to display themselves." Qi Wuxia nodded and smiled interestedly. In every Four Seas hero gathering, there are always people who rush up excitedly, wanting to be the first to occupy the arena. In the end, they get blasted off by 10 girls. I wonder who will end up as a joke this year. As the three spoke, the plaza was already in an uproar. Countless people soared into the air, rushing to the arenas in the center with faces filled with excitement. The Lunar Palace experts guarding the arenas attacked at the same time. With one palm strike, they immediately eliminated most of the people. After that, they no longer bothered with them. This was the first time Xiaoqin saw such a scene, so he could not help feeling startled. Aside from the Four Seas hero gathering's great influence and fame, there was another important reason for such a grand occasion. Chapter 1100. As long as one entered the arena and defeated an opponent, one would obtain a reward from the Lunar Palace. This was especially so for the first stage. By defeating 10 Lunar Palace female disciples, one would obtain the highest reward. One would have the opportunity to obtain all sorts of rare treasures. In terms of wealth, as the top city of the heavenly starry ocean, Bright Moon City collected taxes from the merchants in the city every year, easily surpassing that of the other holy lands. If it was any other holy land that was hosting such a grand event, they probably wouldn't be as generous as this. The extraordinarily bustling scene lasted for a long time. As the 10 female disciples worked together to knock out the many rash cultivators, the place slowly calmed down. Xiaoqin could clearly see that without the strength of a grandmaster-level martial sage, it would be very difficult to defeat the 10 female disciples. However, a true expert would not rashly make an appearance in the first stage. This was probably an invisible threshold that the Lunar Palace had set up. "I'll go. Both of you wish me luck." Qi Wuxia laughed loudly and soared into the air, flying towards a small arena. After Qi Wuxia made his move, some of the Grandmaster-level martial sages could no longer hold themselves back. The true elites of the Four Seas hero gathering started to make their appearance. Occasionally, one could hear someone being recognized and gaining popularity. Xiaoqin and Long Fei showed no intention of making a move. Clearly, this was just an appetizer. In the air, none of the holy scions in the exquisite jade pavilions showed any intention of making a move. Long Fei smiled and said, "Qi Wuxia is going to succeed." Xiao Chen squinted and looked over. Only one Lunar Palace female disciple remained in the arena, where Qi Wuxia was. However, Qi Wuxia did not seem to be in a rush to obtain victory. As they exchanged moves, he occasionally said something to that Lunar Palace female disciple, angering her out of humiliation. Xiao Chen smiled speechlessly and said, "This fellow's nature is really hard to change." Long Fei shook his head as well and said, "His talent is even better than mine. This is truly unfortunate." As the Lunar Palace disciples entered the arena one by one, Qi Wuxia's arena became exceptionally eye-catching, enraging several people. When Qi Wuxia saw the situation, he stopped joking and smiled. "Sister, I will not play with you anymore. Go down first. I'll look for you later." After saying that, Qi Wuxia gently threw that Lunar Palace female disciple off the arena. No need to wait any longer. After understanding the rules of the Four Seas Hero Assembly, Xiao Chen stood up and prepared to take the stage. His target was the highest stage, where Fang Qingxian was leading the 10 elite disciples. It was the most difficult and most eye-catching stage. From the beginning until now, no one had visited that arena. Even the most arrogant person would know their place. Many people were looking forward to seeing who the first son of saint would be. But they also knew that the sons of saints would not appear so early until the time was right. Therefore, most people didn't look at the arena that attracted the most attention. They all knew that this arena was prepared for the chosen. They did not have the qualifications to go up, and they would only be humiliating themselves if they went up. Long Fei immediately said, "It's not good to go on stage too early. If you expose your own strength too much, it will become harder and harder to fight towards the end." Xiao Chen smiled and said, "Don't worry, Brother Long, I know what I'm doing." If not for what Yu Bingyun said 3 days ago, Xiao Chen might not have been so high-profile and rash. He would have waited for a while. However, now that he wanted to obtain the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet, he needed to be high-profile and rash, leaving others speechless. Before Long Fei's flabbergasted gaze, Xiao Chen's figure flashed and spun 3 times in the air. Then he gently landed on the tallest and largest arena in Bright Moon Plaza. Xiao Chen moved too fast. Furthermore, most people did not expect someone to charge to the highest arena so early. As a result, not many people noticed that there was an additional person in the highest arena. The instant Xiao Chen landed, his field of vision immediately widened. The arena was much larger than it looked on the outside. Fang Qingxian held a bamboo flute in her hand. She was somewhat surprised at Xiao Chen's arrival. She smiled softly and said, "Blue Dragon King, you should not have come now." Indeed, Xiao Chen should not have come now. No matter how one looked at it. As someone who was competing for the top prize, he should not have appeared so early. For the sake of snatching the limelight, Xiao Chen exposed his strength too early. Xiao Chen did not answer. He looked to the front and observed the strength of the group of people on the other side. Xiao Chen knew Fang Qingshuan's strength. She was still far from the small perfection blue-robed emperor. The 10 elite female disciples at the back had pretty good cultivations, all Grandmaster-level martial sages. From the finer details, one could discover that the accumulations of the Lunar Palace were much stronger than those of the 9 ranks of the great families, the Haotian sect. At the very least, the Haotian sect definitely did not have so many disciples who were Grandmaster-level martial sages. Xiao Chen already had an understanding of the strength of this group of people. He performed a cupped fist salute and said calmly, "There is no need to say anything more. Miss Fang, make your move." "Sorry for the offense, then." Fang Qingxian elegantly twirled the bamboo flute around her finger. Then she moved to the back. The 10 white-clad female disciples held their swords and split into 2 rows. They stood in a row beside Fang Qingxian, raised their swords, and charged at Xiao Chen together with the sound of the bamboo flute. The instant the bamboo flute rang out, the 100,000 cultivators in Bright Moon Plaza seemed to wake up from a dream. Only now did they discover that a person had leaped onto the highest arena at some point in time. Countless pairs of eyes looked over in an instant, finding this extremely inconceivable. Why would someone choose to go up at this moment? Was he extremely confident in his strength or simply wanted to show off? Was he not afraid of exposing his strength too early by jumping out now? However, when everyone thought about it, the many holy scions in the pavilion in the air did not move. They immediately felt that this was a cultivator who was about to make a fool of himself. However, when everyone clearly saw the white figure on the arena, they were all shocked. It's the Blue Dragon King Xiao Chun. What is he trying to do? He is too arrogant. Does he really think that there is no one left in our heavenly starry ocean? This is a ruthless slap to the faces of all the outstanding talents of the heavenly starry ocean. Unexpectedly, the first person to go up on the most eye-catching arena is the Blue Dragon King, an outsider. Haha, what's so amazing about that? He is just showing off for a while. He will be the one crying later. Voices of criticism rose and fell, turning the entire place into chaos. Several people could not help standing up from their seats. Even on the other small arenas, many of the people who were originally fighting stopped and turned their gazes over. There was only one question in their minds. Why did none of the outstanding talents of the heavenly starry ocean think of going up to the highest arena in advance? Xiao Chun is an outsider. Why does he have the right to ride on their heads? Does he still think that he is the Blue Dragon King with boundless potential? The many holy scions and outstanding talents in the many pavilions in the air, who were resting with their eyes closed, suddenly opened their eyes at the reminder of their elders. The 5 poison sex holy scions could not help cursing. Damn. He is too arrogant. The Sun Palace's Chu Yang narrowed his eyes and radiated a boundless murderous intent. He snorted coldly and said, "Damn. He is too arrogant." The Sun Palace's Chu Yang narrowed his eyes and released a boundless murderous intent. He snorted coldly and said, "He is really not afraid of death." Soft voices rang out in the Inyan Paradise's pavilion. A group of female disciples looked at Xiao Chun, who was on the arena. Their eyes were faintly discernible. "Elder Sister Susu, this Blue Dragon King is really putting on airs. This is our heavenly starry ocean's gathering. And he, an outsider, actually managed to get ahead of the many holy scions and stand on the highest arena." Tong Susu revealed a look of pity on her pretty face. She said, "How unfortunate. If he does not advance to martial emperor in 5 years, he will only have 20 years left to live. In the end, he is a short-lived fellow. Otherwise, this elder sister would really fall in love with him." Even now, Tong Susu could not forget the scene of Xiao Chun forcefully drawing his sword when he faced the many outstanding talents in Despair City. However, in the blink of an eye, Tong Susu's melancholic expression was replaced by a charming one. She smiled seductively and said, "Later, elder sister will make a move and defeat you with my own hands. Don't be too harsh. Those stinky men do not know when to stop." In the Myriad Fiend Island's Jade Pavilion, Yan Shisan, Di Xinhan, and Mu Qingyan all felt that this was incredible. Mu Qingyan said, "Big brother, what do you think he is doing? Right now, your cultivations are no weaker than his. Is he really not afraid of exposing his trump cards?" Di Xinhan, the strongest person of the Myriad Fiend Island's younger generation, and one of Chu Yang's 2 greatest rivals, entered deep thought. He could not understand what was going on, either, so he looked at Yan Shisan. Yan Shisan shrugged his shoulders and smiled helplessly. "Don't look at me. I don't know either. Given my understanding of him in the Kunlun continent, he is not the kind of person who likes to stand out. He must have his reasons for doing this. I don't think so. He is probably going to suffer a setback this time. He seems to have underestimated the strength of the many outstanding talents of our heavenly star island. Not to mention the others. Just Big Brother's heavenly spiritual body is already at the small perfection blue-robed emperor. Just his physical body alone is unstoppable. Furthermore, Brother Shirsan's massacre sword Dao has already reached the peak. Even the old seniors of my Myriad Fiend Island, who use the sword, admit that they are not his match." Mu Qingyun, who had nearly been killed by Xiao Chun with one saber strike, analyzed the situation somewhat indignantly. Yan Shirsan and Di Xinhan did not comment. Although they acknowledged Xiao Chun's strength in their hearts, they did not think that there would be a large gap between them and Xiao Chun now that they had reached the blue-robed emperor realm. The Lunar Palace's judges were in the most exquisite palace in the air at all times, paying attention to everything below. They paid attention to everything below. Not a single detail in the Bright Moon Plaza could escape their eyes. Outside the balcony, Yu Bingyun watched as Xiaochen entered the arena. Then, she shook her head slightly. If this was the method Xiaochen thought of, did he think that by making an early appearance and showing off, the judges would be speechless? In that case, Yu Bingyun would only be disappointed. This was arrogance. There was no way he could snatch away the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet. A murderous chi slowly soared amid the flute music. 10 white-clad women soared into the air on the highest arena, dancing around with their swords in hand. This dazzled everyone, too much for the eye to take in. As the 10 women pressed forward, Xiaochen squinted his eyes and looked, but he could not find any openings. Chapter 1101. The murderous sword dance before him was made up of elite disciples. Its overall might was more than double that of the one he faced on the Jade Bridge, making it even harder to deal with. Under the guidance of the murderous sound, the Bright Moon Sword Dance, an ancient inheritance of the Lunar Palace, lived up to its reputation after tens of thousands of years of modification. The combination of 10 Grandmaster-level martial sages and 1 Fong Qingxuan's flute did not simply merge the strength of these people together. Instead, it multiplied the strength of these people. As long as one fell into it, any of the holy scions would have to fight a bitter battle. Several of the outstanding talents did not want to go down early, because they were not confident of breaking this murderous sword dance in a short time. Even if they won, they would have to put in a lot of effort. Unexpectedly, Xiaochen snatched away the limelight. Now they could not help but call him an egomaniac in their hearts. Many people smiled coldly. They wanted to see how the arrogant Xiaochen would fall into this murderous sword dance and lose the chance to obtain the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet for the sake of showing off. Would Xiaochen waste a lot of time in this murderous sword dance and expose his trump cards? Clearly not. Since Xiaochen could not find an opening, he would force one out. Just as the spiraling murderous sword dance was about to envelop Xiaochen smiled faintly and let out a loud roar. The magic energy in Xiaochen's sea of consciousness burned as he executed the dragon tone art at full power. The dragon roar that erupted out instantly tore through the sky, 10,000 times more horrifying than the thunder of the 9 heavens. A beam of light pierced through the shattered clouds and landed on Xiaochen's body, illuminating the white-robed blue dragon king with a dazzling golden light. Following that, the clouds for 5,000 kilometers around scattered like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves. The light from Xiaochen's body spread throughout the world. In an instant, it was like the entire world had become several times brighter because of Xiaochen, giving everyone a piercing sunlight. This was because he, the Blue Dragon King, roared and tore through the sky, shaking the surroundings and shattering the clouds for 5,000 kilometers around. The Bright Moon Swordsmanship did not have any flaws, but as long as one grasped it well, one could easily create an opening. That flaw was naturally in Fong Qingxuan's flute music, that was filled with murderous intent. The dragon tone art was mainly used to deal with the deity race's mental energy martial techniques. However, martial techniques were dead, while people were alive. As long as it could disrupt the opponent's rhythm, any martial technique could be used. This was the principle of learning and applying flexibly. The instant the clouds for 5,000 kilometers around shattered, and the sunlight shone on the ground, Xiaochen moved. He charged forward in a straight line, knocking the white-clad disciples in front of him into the air like sandbags. The rhythm of the Bright Moon Sword Dance had already been broken. Before Xiaochen, these Lunar Palace disciples were just ordinary Grandmaster-level martial sages. Naturally, they could not block Xiaochen. In an instant, Xiaochen arrived before Fong Qingxian. As she was the one blowing the flute, Xiaochen's dragon tone art focused on Fong Qingxian. At this moment, Fong Qingxuan's complexion was pale, and blood leaked out of a corner of her lips. She had just grasped her sword when Xiaochen struck her wrist with a palm strike, causing her sword to fall to the ground. Xiaochen did not stop moving. He pressed forward and sent out another palm strike. Just as his palm strike was about to land, he thought of something and held back in time. When his palm strike landed on Fong Qingxuan's right shoulder, he sent out a force that knocked her back, but did not injure her at all. With one dragon roar and one exchange, Xiaochen easily broke the famous Bright Moon Sword Dance. The situation of Xiao Chen getting tangled up in several people's expectations did not happen. Instead, Xiao Chen quickly broke the bright moon sword dance with a lightning-fast momentum. Like a whirlwind, Xiao Chen did not drag things out, clean and efficient. Xiao Chen's white robes fluttered as he stood on the most eye-catching arena. If not for the clouds slowly gathering for 5,000 kilometers in the sky, many people would have suspected that everything they saw was just an illusion. Everything they saw was just an illusion. Thank you for letting me win. Xiao Chen said with a cupped fist salute as he turned around and faced the white-clad disciple still on the arena. The Lunar Palace disciple bowed gracefully and returned the greeting before drifting away. She was like a fairy dancing in the air, a delightful sight to behold. The various holy scions in the many jade pavilions in the air were all shocked. They had not expected Xiao Chen to break the bright moon sword dance so easily. All of them remained silent, as if they could not accept this reality. In the jade pavilion where the Zodiac Hall was, Chu Yang stood up with a sullen expression, preparing to charge down. However, Fu Hongyao and the group of elders quickly stopped him. Holy Scion, there is no need to rush. This is just the beginning. He will not be able to maintain his might for long. An old man with a goatee in the Zodiac Hall advised. Fu Hongyao said softly, Senior brother, there is indeed no need to rush. There are many experts in the 100 small arenas below. Several of the outstanding talents from the previous Four Seas Hero Gathering are there. Those people are all in their 40s, and their cultivations are not low. We will definitely be able to force him to draw his saber. At that time, we will know his limits with one look. Chu Yang's expression changed. He slowly sat down and said, I'll let him be cocky for a while first. When he jumps high enough, I'll trample on him. In the Jade Pavilion where the Five Poison Sect was, the Holy Scion of the Five Poison Sect showed an uncertain expression. Soon he made a decision to watch for a while longer. In the Myriad Fiend Island group, Yin Shursan was somewhat stunned. He said, I forgot that he knows the dragon tone art. Let's wait a little longer. We will be able to see his true strength after he draws his saber. Bang! The white-clad girl had just left the arena when someone flew over impatiently. This person held a heavy staff and arrived before Xiao Chen. It's Wang Meng. In the previous Four Seas Hero Gathering he ranked 4th. Now that 20 years have passed, his cultivation has already reached the level of the blue-robed emperor. He will definitely be able to hold his own against Xiao Chen. The moment this person appeared, he immediately caused a huge commotion. Many people recognized him. Xiao Chen squinted and looked over. This person's cultivation was indeed deep, not much weaker than that of some of the holy scions. His only regret was that he was rather old, and his potential had already been mostly dug out. Without any fortuitous encounters, it would be very difficult for him to advance to martial emperor in this lifetime. Wang Meng's staff struck the arena heavily, and countless cracks immediately appeared in the ground. As the wind blew, Wang Meng's aura gathered continuously. Wang Meng held his staff with one hand and spun it around. The strong wind howled even more intensely. This simple action pushed his aura to the peak. Even the air turned solid under the pressure of his aura, pressing down on Xiao Chen like a mountain. Wang Meng, I have long heard of the name of the Blue Dragon King. Today, I came to fight you. Sorry for the offense. Right after Wang Meng spoke, he shouted ferociously and soared into the air. Then he swung his staff at Xiao Chen. Wang Meng's body was like a mountain. The moment he stood up, the force of his feet pushed off the ground. The arena could not withstand it, and it shook intensely. When the staff pressed down, a mysterious phenomenon appeared. 3 huge mountains gathered in the sky. The mountains were so vast that it flabbergasted everyone. Indistinct cracks appeared in the air. It was easy to imagine how strong this staff strike was. Just when everyone thought that Xiao Chen would have to take out his saber to deal with this strong, profound martial technique, Xiao Chen took out a staff as well. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen also took out a staff. The staff in Xiao Chen's hand spun like the wind. A strong wind howled, and an aura that could topple mountains and flip seas poured out. The sky instantly turned dark, and thunderclouds filled the sky. It was like the end of the world. Bolts of lightning tore through the sky. Just as the staff in Wang Meng's hand was about to press down, Xiao Chen's staff suddenly stopped spinning. The strong wind carried tens of thousands of bolts of lightning behind Xiao Chen. It was like he was pulling tens of thousands of ancient ferocious beasts running in the air. It was a boundless and shocking scene. Xiao Chen did not move. He gently pushed the staff in his hand at Wang Meng. The power of wind and lightning burst forth in an instant. He was like a king leading an army of 10,000. Dressed in white, he stood in the middle of the blood-soaked battlefield. His elegance was outstanding. No one could compare to him. When Xiao Chen stabbed with his staff, the three mountains pressing down crumbled in an instant. Wang Meng, who had charged over with a ferocious aura, vomited a mouthful of blood in midair and staggered to the ground. Whoosh! Xiao Chen held his staff like a spear and leaped into the air. The instant Wang Meng landed, he pressed forward. Wang Meng retreated again and again. The tip of the staff was always only an inch away from his throat. That intimidating aura forced him to retreat in a fluster. Wang Meng kept retreating until he reached the edge of the arena. He nearly fell off. Xiao Chen's footsteps sank, and he quickly withdrew his staff. Wang Meng's heart thumped heavily. He thought to himself, that was close. If I really fell off, I would have lost a lot of face. Thank you for letting me win. Xiao Chen cupped his hands in greeting. He did not show any arrogance from defeating his opponent, nor did he show any hypocrisy. He was as calm as the autumn water, polite and restrained. Wang Meng felt his face burn. He did not say anything and turned around to leave. He was truly speechless. Before Wang Meng ascended the arena, his thoughts were very simple. He just wanted to trample on this outdated Blue Dragon King and gain a good reputation in the Four Seas hero gathering. If Wang Meng had really done that, he would have been mentioned as the outstanding talent of the Northern Sea who dealt the final blow to the Blue Dragon King. However, the outcome was rather cruel. Wang Meng could not even receive one move from Xiao Chen. If not for Xiao Chen pulling back in time, Wang Meng would have lost in an even more unsightly manner. Not only could Wang Meng not accept such an outcome, but the many cultivators of the heavenly starry ocean also could not accept it. How could an outstanding talent of the heavenly starry ocean, a veteran, be unable to receive even one move from this outsider? Furthermore, he lost to the staff technique that he was most proficient in. The entire place fell silent. Hundreds of thousands of people did not say anything, like they were all mute. They were all planning to see how the arrogant Xiao Chen would be trampled on. However, reality ruthlessly slapped them in the face. How could they accept this? How could they accept this? It seemed like such a scene had never happened in the past 10,000 years in the extraordinarily bustling Four Seas hero gathering. Hundreds of thousands of people fell silent, the place quiet. After a while, another three outstanding talents stepped up. However, they all lost to Xiao Chen, all in one move. Xiao Chen used whatever weapon his opponent used. With the simulation of the changing character formula, Xiao Chen was no weaker than his opponent in every weapon. The Four Seas hero gathering continued in silence. There was no commotion or shouting. No one spoke. There was nothing to say. Chapter 1102. When the Lunar Palace's judges saw this scene, they did not know what to say. Could it be that Xiao Chen could not even get the Blue Dragon King, Xiao Chen, to draw his saber? All the heavenly starry ocean cultivators felt a clump of fire in their hearts, feeling extremely sullen. With Xiao Chen's actions, the hundreds of thousands of heavenly starry ocean cultivators felt humiliated. They raged, but they could not do anything about it. Out of these hundreds of thousands of people, no one dared to say anything. How sorrowful was this? Up in the arena, the first-ranked outstanding talent of the previous Four Seas hero gathering lost in one move to Xiao Chen's spear techniques. Once again, Xiao Chen lost to the weapon he was most proficient in. Finally, someone could no longer hold back his emotions. He shouted angrily, "You so-called holy scions, how long are you going to be cowards?" His voice reverberated in the vast and quiet Bright Moon Plaza, echoing in all directions, sounding sorrowful. After a moment of silence, the rage and sullenness in everyone's hearts erupted. Hundreds of thousands of people stood up at the same time and looked at the exquisite jade pavilions in the air. They could not help shouting loudly, "Inherited holy lands, immortal for 10,000 years." If not now, when? Inherited Holy Lands, immortal for 10,000 years. If not now, when? The deafening shouts resounded in the surroundings, reverberating in the air. Hundreds of thousands of people shouted at the same time. A scene that had never happened before in the Four Seas hero gathering happened. The Holy Scions of the Heavenly Province Academy, the Five Poison Sect, the Divine Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas, the Zodiac Hall, and the Inyang Paradise all showed extremely unsightly expressions in the many exquisite jade pavilions. This was especially so for the words, inherited holy lands, immortal for 10,000 years. They felt their faces burn. Now an outsider, the Blue Dragon King who was past his prime in their eyes, actually forced the hundreds of thousands of cultivators in Bright Moon Plaza to turn against them. As Xiaochen stood in the arena, he entered deep thought. He had not expected such a situation either. However, this was fine as well. Since he wanted everyone to be speechless, then he would keep a high profile until the end. He did not mind adding fuel to the fire. Xiaochen said in a clear voice, "The Holy Land of Inheritance is immortal for tens of thousands of years. Today this untalented Xiao has come for the last Dragon's Gate Mountain Tablet. Holy Sons, do you dare to come down and fight?" His voice was not loud, but it clearly spread to every corner, suppressing the cheers of hundreds of thousands of people. In the entire Bright Moon Square, everyone went silent at the same time, leaving only Xiaochen's clear voice, spreading in all directions, echoing leisurely. He was stunned by Xiaochen's words. Facing so many saints, he actually wanted to challenge all of them alone. Wasn't he a little too arrogant? Xiaochen's blunt mockery caused all the saint princes to be unable to sit still any longer. Anyone with the slightest bit of courage would be unable to bear it at this moment, let alone these proud and arrogant outstanding talents. Damn it! Do you really think that my heavenly starry ocean has no one capable? I, young Master Qingshu, will fight with you. In the Heavenly Province Academy's Jade Pavilion, young Master Qingshu drifted down and looked coldly at Xiaochen. Young Master Qingshu smiled coldly and said, "Blue Dragon King, you are indeed arrogant enough. Do you dare to be even more arrogant? When you bullied some of the veteran outstanding talents, you did not use your saber. Do you dare to continue not using your saber when fighting me?" After seeing Xiaochen's strength, young Master Qingshu knew that he was no match for Xiaochen. After thinking for a while, he thought of a way to infuriate Xiaochen with words. Everyone looked at Xiaochen, waiting to see how he would answer. If Xiaochen did not agree, young Master Qingshu would be in the right. Then, Xiaochen would become someone who only dared to bully the veteran outstanding talents. As you wish. Xiaochen's expression remained calm. With a flip of his hand, a white folding fan appeared in his palm. In the palace where the Lunar Palace's judges were, Yu Bingyan appeared somewhat distracted. Is this what Xiaochen meant by making people speechless? The heroes of the world bustled with activity, coming and going endlessly. Countless outstanding talents emerged from the Four Seas. However, the Blue Dragon King, Xiaochen, used only one move, the weapon that the Blue Dragon King excelled at, and defeated them in one move. Such elegance! If one could last until the end, one would indeed be speechless, unable to hesitate. Even the Lunar Palace's judges, who wanted to make things difficult for Xiaochen and prevent him from taking away the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet, could not do anything or say anything. However, could one really do it? Earlier, when facing the various veteran outstanding talents, Xiaochen could defeat them in one move. Now that he faced so many holy scions, he still dared to challenge them alone. This was truly arrogant. The cultivators in Bright Moon Plaza were also astonished. Unexpectedly, when facing the holy scions of an immortal holy land, Xiaochen still dared to not draw his saber, using the weapon that the other party excelled at. Even if Xiaochen did not say it, he had to admit his elegance in his heart. At the very least, no one in the younger generation would dare to do what Xiaochen did. Even if the Four Seas hero gathering was set back 10,000 years ago, no one had dared to do this. No one had ever done this before or after. Young Master Qingshu smiled and said, "You are really boundlessly arrogant. To think that you dare to play with a fan before me, young Master Qingshu. In that case, let's decide victory in one move. Do you accept or not? In his previous fight with Xiao Chun, young Master Qingshu had been frightened by Xiao Chun's unpredictable fists, claws and fists, so he did not dare to drag things out. As long as Xiao Chun agreed to decide victory in one move, and the other party could not use his saber, he would definitely defeat Xiao Chun in an extremely unsightly manner. Before Xiao Chun said anything, Wuxia, who was in the small arena below, mocked. You are a bona fide holy scion. Yet you have so many requests when fighting with someone. Do you really think that this is child's play? Why don't you just say that Xiao Chun is just standing there and not moving and letting you decide? The moment Wuxia said this, no one retorted. Young Master Qingshu's actions were indeed somewhat shameless. Those who wanted to speak up for him were too embarrassed to do so. Young Master Qingshu's expression did not change. However, he smiled coldly in his heart. The winner is king, and the loser is a bandit. As long as he defeated Xiao Chun, all the criticism would vanish like smoke. Xiao Chun smiled faintly and said, deciding victory in one move? That suits my intentions. Make your move. When young Master Qingshu saw Xiao Chun agree, he rejoiced in his heart. He laughed loudly and said, the Blue Dragon King truly lives up to his reputation as the Blue Dragon King. Such boldness is indeed admirable. However, there is no medicine for regret in this world. I, young Master Qingshu, will end your short-lived legend. Today, I will show you that not just anyone can play with a fan. Whoosh! Young Master Qingshu pushed off with his feet and turned into an azure light, charging at Xiao Chun. Everywhere young Master Qingshu passed, the ground soared up. Many green bamboos stuck firmly into the ground, growing straight. Soon, the entire arena was covered in green bamboos, countless in number. Strong and surging wood-attributed spiritual energy floated in the air, looking thick and viscous. Combined with the righteous qi that young Master Qingshu cultivated, his aura soared infinitely, reaching an incredible level. It was nearly equal to the great perfection blue-robed emperors. By Yunfei on the Nine Peaks Mountain, the holy sun rides the wind and descends to the green hills. Young Master Qingshu recited a clear poem. He was a scholar of the Confucian sect, filled with righteous qi. The moment he recited the poem, young Master Qingshu's aura completely changed. He seemed to be in harmony with the noble and unquestionable integrity of the green bamboos. Xiao Chun's eyes lit up. This was rather unique. Young Master Qingshu used a poem to temporarily change his aura, allowing his aura to completely merge with the mysterious phenomenon of the martial technique, allowing the might of this move to reach a perfect state. However, no matter what, the aura that young Master Qingshu put on was just that. There was no true feeling. Everything was just a facade. If young Master Qingshu were as noble and unquestionable integrity as the green bamboos, it would be hard to say who would win if Xiao Chun fought with his folding fan. As for now, Xiao Chun would watch young Master Qingshu put on a good show before dealing a fatal blow. Amid the green bamboos, Xiao Chun showed a calm expression as he gently fanned himself with the folding fan in his hand. In life, it is important to have a plan in one's heart, to endure difficult trials. It is most important to be humble, to preserve one's strength, to experience wind and rain for a long time, not knowing the cold. The vast poem resounded everywhere and spread out. Every cultivator in Bright Moon Plaza could clearly feel a vast and righteous aura. Young Master Qingshu's body flickered continuously in the air. Every time he flickered, there would be a poem. In the air, young Master Qingshu used his folding fan as a brush. He wrote these poems in the air, forming an inextinguishable righteous will. The green bamboos on the ground merged with the poem in the air. The entire arena seemed to turn into an ink painting filled with charm. Young Master Qingshu, the one holding the brush, had an ethereal figure, completely merging with the world. It was hard to tell where he would appear next. Everyone could only watch as young Master Qingshu used the poem as a painting in the air, slowly making his martial technique stronger and more perfect. There are 2 or 3 peach blossoms outside the bamboo. Who knows when the spring water is warm? Outside the green bamboo, peach blossoms fell one after another, adding a touch of color to this simple and elegant ink painting. All the spectators were shocked. Although young Master Qingshu's methods were somewhat despicable, his martial technique was indeed shocking. It was nearly invulnerable. However, No one could surpass young Master Qingshu in terms of the folding fan. No wonder he was so confident. Before the fight even started, he had already determined that Xiaochen would lose. Another red sun rises. My heart is still the same as the heavens. A dazzling morning sun soared out from young Master Qingshu's chest, raising his aura to the peak of great perfection. Emperor Wu's. It was sufficient to crush someone to death with its aura. Then, this red sun pressed down on Xiaochen. Looking from all directions, the most eye-catching arena looked like a painting filled with green bamboos and poems, decorating this peach blossom river. As for Xiaochen, he was trapped in the painting like a trapped beast. Many people felt very happy in their hearts. This was the result of being arrogant. Who asked you to be arrogant? Now, even if you wanted to cry, you could not. Inherited Holy Land, immortal for 10,000 years. The Holy Sun appears, and the blue dragon is defeated. Perhaps because the crowd had been stifled for too long, when they saw that young Master Qingshu held such a great advantage, someone took the lead and shouted. Immediately, the crowd followed suit, and young Master Qingshu's fame shook the sky. In the small arena below, Wuxia cursed. This group of people is too shameless. Xiaochen is also too much. Why did he agree to it? He should have just beaten him up. The 10 judges of the Lunar Palace exchanged glances and came to an answer. Yu Bingyan understood in her heart that if Xiaochen lost this match, no matter how graceful he was earlier, the judges would not give him the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet. A bright moon shines in the sky, a bridge breaks the water, and snow fills the sky. Who knows that my heart is like the moon? Whoever laughs is the person in the painting. Chapter 1103. Just as everyone saw the arena turn into a painting and young Master Qingshu firmly trapping Xiaochen in the painting, Xiaochen muttered a cold, desolate, and proud poem. The martial technique hidden in the fan silently unfolded. A small bridge, a flowing river, and a bright moon appeared one after another, complemented by the 1,000 frost battle snow. Snow filled the sky, cutting off the flowing river, and making the moon appear even colder. Everyone suddenly realized that the painting on the arena suddenly had many more sceneries, causing the originally simple and elegant painting to become colorful and colorful, competing with each other in beauty. However, something even more horrifying happened. The instant Xiaochen, who was clearly trapped in the painting, finished reciting the poem, he leaped out of the painting and became someone outside. Young Master Qingshu immediately leaped out of the painting, becoming someone outside the painting. As for young Master Qingshu, who used the world as the ink and the fan as the brush to paint, he became someone inside the painting, trapped within it. What's going on? What's going on? The crowd, who had been shouting about the inheritance of the Holy Land and the immortal for 10,000 years, stopped. Shock filled their hearts, and incredulity filled their faces. They could not understand what was happening. Why was it that one moment earlier, Xiaochen was still the person in the painting? In the next moment, Xiaochen became outside the painting, trapping young Master Qingshu instead? How could the crowd, who had been shouting about the appearance of the Holy Sun and the defeat of the Blue Dragon, endure this? When the many older generation Confucian sect experts in the Heavenly Province Academy's Jade Pavilion saw this scene, their eyes filled with disbelief. Others might not understand, but as peak experts of the Confucian sect, how could they not understand? The martial technique that young Master Qingshu practiced was one of the Academy's 10 great profound martial techniques, picturesque landscape. It had a total of 4 layers. They were raising the brush to paint, one with the painting, breaking out of the painting, and the most profound painting outside the painting. Young Master Qingshu was an outstanding talent that only appeared once every few hundred years in the Heavenly Province Academy. He learned this martial technique at a young age and reached the level of raising the brush to paint, using the world as his ink and the fan as his brush. Young Master Qingshu even used a trick to enter the second layer of one with the painting, raising the might of picturesque landscape to another level. However, who knew? Xiaochen immediately saw through young Master Qingshu's trick. Xiaochen's aura was not like Qingshu's, creating a major flaw in the painting. As for Xiaochen, he was like a god. With just one look, he comprehended the essence of this move. He used a poem that was similar to his own character. Whoever was laughing in the painting could laugh at who. It was clear who was superior. This person definitely knows some kind of cultivation technique that can imitate other people's martial techniques. Otherwise, even if he could see the essence of this move, he would not be able to jump out of the painting and trap Qingshu. Otherwise, he would not be able to do so. Another person added, "That can't be wrong. Otherwise, it would be hard to explain why a bladesman like him knows so many weapons. Furthermore, he seems to have learned them well. How high must one's perception be to dare to cultivate this kind of cultivation method?" An old man sighed softly. Indeed, even if such a cultivation technique was placed before these consummation blue-robed emperors, they would not dare to cultivate it. There was no other reason. Without sufficient comprehension ability, not only would they not be able to increase their strength, but they would even lose themselves in it, finding it hard to advance. Their strength might even regress. Up in the palace, Yu Bingyun muttered to herself, "Who knows that my heart is like the moon? The moon is a lone flower admiring itself, no one able to understand it. It has been alone for thousands of years, a cold, proud, and lonely existence. What kind of person could come up with such a poem, comparing himself to the bright moon? What kind of person could use such a thought to trap the confident young Master Qingshu in the painting?" In the arena, young Master Qingshu appeared confused. He did not know what happened. Xiaochun, whom he suppressed in front, suddenly moved. It was like there was a barrier that he could never cross. Young Master Qingshu could only fly forward, getting further and further away from Xiaochun. Young Master Qingshu clearly brought out the full might of this picturesque landscape. However, he could only watch helplessly as Xiaochun moved further away from him, unable to do anything. Xiaochun remained silent. Then, he folded the folding fan in his hand and gently tapped the painting in front of him on young Master Qingshu's chest. In young Master Qingshu's opinion, Xiaochun, who was at the ends of the world, closed the distance with one hand, catching him off guard and forcing him to suffer this heavy blow. To others, it looked like Xiaochun was just standing outside the painting, gently tapping it with his brush. Bang! Young Master Qingshu vomited a mouthful of blood. His internal organs ruptured as he suffered a backlash from his cultivation technique. The mysterious phenomena scattered, and the painting shattered. Young Master Qingshu tumbled out of the arena. When he landed, he kicked up a large cloud of dust and rumbled endlessly. This startled young Master Qingshu awake. When he saw the white-robed Xiaochun in the highest arena, his eyes widened. Then he pointed at Xiaochun, his eyes filled with horror. You actually trapped me in the painting. How can it be? Pussy eye." Young Master Qingshu vomited another mouthful of blood. He could not accept this blow, so he fainted from frustration. When everyone thought about what young Master Qingshu said earlier, they felt like his words were still ringing in their ears. However, despite all his scheming and shamelessness, he still could not end Xiaochun's legend. Instead, he buried his reputation here. "If you want me to not draw my saber, I will not draw my saber. If you want to decide victory or defeat with one move, I will do as you wish. No matter how many schemes you have, I only need one move to defeat you." A strange silence reappeared in Bright Moon Plaza. A scene that made hundreds of thousands of people fall silent once again appeared in the Four Seas Hero Gathering. The savior in many people's hearts still could not make Xiaochun draw his saber. Xiaochun still lost to the weapon he was most proficient with. Furthermore, it was just one move. Now the scions of the various immortal holy lands, and some of the hidden noble clans were no longer hot-blooded. Even if another 1 million people called themselves the immortal holy lands, they would not go up. They needed to wait until Xiaochun showed some signs of weakness before they could go up. Otherwise, not only would they fail to trample on him, they would also lose their reputation. The quiet Bright Moon Plaza paused for a moment. The many outstanding talents in the other small arenas had long since lost interest. One person had snatched away all the spotlight. Even though they were fighting brilliantly, no one paid attention to it. However, they did not have the courage to go up to the most eye-catching arena. Even the holy scions were defeated in one move. How could they dare to go up? In the Inyang Paradise's Jade Pavilion, a female disciple smiled and said, "First senior sister, these men do not dare to go up anymore." You should go up and raise the prestige of our Inyang paradise. That's right. That's right. Elder sister said it before. In order to prevent those stinky men from injuring the Blue Dragon King, we have to defeat them gently with our own hands. Tong Susu rolled her eyes at the two girls and scolded them with a smile. Elder sister has never been beaten by a man before. If I really get defeated in one move, even if I do not advance to martial emperor in 5 years, and have only 20 years left to live, elder sister's heart will not be able to leave that person. In the Zodiac Hall, Chu Yang and Fu Hongyao remained silent, showing complicated expressions. Chu Yang had tossed away his earlier ambitions long ago. He wished that he could immediately go up and beat up Xiao Chen. However, his rationality told him that this was not the time to make an appearance. It was not worth it to lose his reputation at the hands of someone who did not have much lifespan left. The Lunar Palace's judges all had expressions of having everything under control. Now, they also showed expressions of not knowing what to do. To think that one person could force the Four Seas hero gathering to stop. This was a big joke. In the Myriad Fiend Island's Jade Pavilion, Yan Shursen stood up and prepared to go up. However, Di Xinhan stretched out his hand and stopped him. Di Xinhan said, "Brother Shursen, let me go. After all, this is the Four Seas hero gathering of my heavenly starry ocean." Yan Shursen turned his head and said, "Think carefully. You are just seeking defeat. If I go up, I can make him draw his saber. That will definitely increase your chances of victory. I left the Yin clan long ago, and do not care about my reputation. However, you are different. You still have the Myriad Fiend Island, an immortal holy land, behind you." Di Xinhan smiled and said, "Victory and defeat are common in battles. It seems that since I made my debut, I have never lost to a person of the same generation in the heavenly starry ocean. So what if I lose once?" Towards the end, Di Xinhan added sullenly, "Furthermore, this is the Four Seas hero gathering of my heavenly starry ocean. Someone has to step up. If everyone remains silent and watches, hoping to be the fisherman, then our generation will be finished." Yan Shursen thought for a while and did not insist. He took a step back and said, "Take care." While everyone remained silent, the Myriad Fiend Island's Di Xinhan silently landed on the most eye-catching arena. Di Xinhan. Di Xinhan's appearance immediately lit up the eyes of several people, a flame of hope igniting in them. Di Xinhan was born with the heavenly spiritual body, a special physique. He was the top genius of the Myriad Fiend Island. Since he made his debut, he had never lost to anyone of the same generation. The reason was none other than his strong heavenly spiritual body. At the crucial moment, even if he could not defeat his opponent, he could still end the fight in a draw. In terms of physical strength, he was publicly recognized as the strongest person of the same generation in the heavenly starry ocean. No one could compare to him. Furthermore, his cultivation, combat techniques, and comprehension ability were not bad. No matter where he went, he would always be the center of attention. He would always be one of the few people at the top of the pyramid of the younger generation. His status had never wavered. While the many holy scions watched from the sidelines, not daring to make a move, Di Xinhan dared to step forward. He was indeed a true man. However, the people present did not say anything. They only silently praised Di Xinhan in their hearts. "Blue Dragon King, I have long heard of your great name. I wanted to fight you in Despair City. Unfortunately, at that time, my cultivation was one cultivation realm lower than yours, so I did not dare to challenge you. Today, please give me some pointers." Di Xinhan performed a cupped fist salute and looked calmly at Xiao Chen. He did not show the sophistry of young Master Qingshu or the anger of those veteran outstanding talents. Xiao Chen returned the cupped fist salute. He had seen the other party in Despair City. In Xiao Chen's opinion, if Di Xinhan had challenged him at that time, he would have had a 30% chance of winning. Now that Di Xinhan challenged him, he would not even have a 30% chance. On the surface, it looked like the two were of the same cultivation, both small perfection blue-robed emperor. However, in reality, the difference was rather large. Xiao Chen was a peak small perfection blue-robed emperor. Furthermore, The foundation of advancing to blue-robed emperor was breaking through and establishing 10,000 heavenly sage laws. In this aspect, Di Xinhan was not as good as Xiao Chun. More importantly, in the half a year of seeking dragons and fixing veins, he had fought with all sorts of ferocious beasts, gaining a deep comprehension of the changing character formula. Chapter 1104. In that dark and cold seabed, Xiao Chen's mental state had been tempered to a horrifying level, much stronger than that of several older generation cultivators. Xiao Chen collected his thoughts and said calmly, "This Xiao has heard of your name for a long time already." The heavenly spiritual body was a peak physique even during the ancient era. As one's cultivation increased, their combat prowess would increase by leaps and bounds. Now that you have reached the blue-robed emperor realm, I believe that Brother Di's heavenly spiritual body has improved by another level. Di Xinhan revealed a proud expression. He did not comment on Xiao Chen's words. He said, "Not to mention anything else, just in terms of physical body, I believe that no one in the same generation can compare to me, including Brother Xiao. But I don't like to play tricks, to compare my strengths with other people's weaknesses, and to be pleased with myself after winning." Clearly, Di Xinhan's words had a deeper meaning. He was referring to young Master Qingshu. He disdained playing such tricks. "Today, when I fought with Brother Xiao, I knew that I could not defeat you, so I did not ask for too much. As long as I can force Brother Xiao to draw his saber, it will be worth it." Di Xinhan appeared very magnanimous, not arrogant at all. In the earlier battles, Xiao Chen had already used his actions to prove his strength. There was no need to admit that he was not as good as the other party. Xiao Chen liked Di Xinhan's lofty sentiments. Among the many holy scions, Di Xinhan was indeed a true man. Actually, in the Kunlun continent, before the king conferral ceremony, I relied on the advantage of my physical body to make a name for myself among the same generation. Today, when I see Brother Di, I do not wish for anything else but to experience the might of the heavenly spiritual body. Di Xinhan immediately understood. "You want to fight me purely with the physical body?" Xiao Chen nodded and said, "That's right. Just the physical body, nothing else." After saying that, Xiao Chen did not hesitate. He circulated the blue dragon body nourishing art, and a complete battle armor formed from pure blue dragon energy covered Xiao Chen's entire body. The battle armor was engraved with blue dragon patterns. It flickered with light and gave off a heroic aura. Di Xinhan originally thought that Xiao Chen was joking. He was very clear on how horrifying his heavenly spiritual body was. However, when he saw the azure-colored battle armor slowly appear on Xiao Chen's body, his expression slowly turned grave. When the battle armor took shape, Xiao Chen's expression no longer showed any signs of relaxation. He smiled bitterly and said, "I take back what I said earlier. However, I am confident that I still have a 50% chance of winning if we compete in physical strength." Xiao Chen said with a smile, "To be honest, I'm sure I can defeat Brother Di in one move if we compare moves. However, among my peers, I've never competed purely in terms of physical body. There's no other reason but because there's really no one who can match me. I believe you can understand my feelings, Brother Di." Di Xinhan could not help laughing loudly. He had truly found a confidant. Among those of the same generation, Di Xinhan had never competed in physical strength with anyone. Similarly, he could not find an opponent in the heavenly starry ocean. "Very well. Today this Di will compete with Brother Xiao. Let's see whether your blue dragon war body or my heavenly spiritual body is stronger." Right after Di Xinhan spoke, he drove the heavenly spiritual body. A set of sky blue battle armor appeared on his body as well. This battle armor was formed purely from heavenly spiritual energy. It looked solid and thick. Xiao Chen wanted to compete in physical strength with Di Xinhan. Now the crowd, which had been calm for a long time, could not help turning restless. Di Xinhan's physical body was famous in the heavenly starry ocean. No one doubted that he was the strongest within the same generation. Xiao Chen really picked whichever bone was the hardest. In an instant, victory became hard to predict. This piqued the interest of countless people. Although many people did not say anything, Their impression of Xiao Chen had already changed significantly. Although Xiao Chen's words were somewhat unconvincing, his tone did not contain any arrogance. Instead, his words were solid and filled with strength. Every time he won, he defeated his opponent with a great advantage. However, in all these battles, no one had ever seen Xiao Chen become arrogant after a victory. On the contrary, the many outstanding talents of the heavenly starry ocean, who came out with surging auras, ended up making fools of themselves. Honestly speaking, it was hard for anyone to be unconvinced of such an expert. This was especially so now. Xiao Chen's conversation with Di Xinhan was very polite and restrained. Everyone could see the side of Xiao Chen that craved a challenge. Even a consummation quasi-emperor would not dare to say such a thing when competing with the heavenly spiritual body with the physical body. However, Xiao Chen did this, rising to the challenge and facing it head-on. "Brother Xiao, are you ready?" Di Xinhan asked. Di Xinhan's heavenly spiritual body was a special physique that he was born with. Xiao Chen's blue dragon war body was acquired. Right now, there was not much difference between the two. However, when it came to the convenience of moving vital qi, the acquired Xiao Chen would be slower than Di Xinhan, no matter what. Hence, Di Xinhan's question was to let Xiao Chen have a fair fight. After a while, the blue dragon body nourishing art circulated through his meridians. Then Xiao Chen nodded and said, "That's enough." The two bowed to each other again, and moved back 1 kilometer. The instant they landed, all their auras burst forth. Azure-colored heaven dragons came out of Xiao Chen's body. This was a mysterious phenomenon formed by pure vital qi. The huge heaven dragons swam behind Xiao Chen. 10 dragons danced around, stirring up winds and clouds. Lightning flashed and thunder roared endlessly, causing the sky to change color. Di Xinhan's aura was no weaker than Xiao Chen's. 10 faint blue heaven dragons swam around his body. Strong winds suddenly formed in the surroundings. The winds held back and forth in the sky, creating several horrifying bolts of lightning. The two showed stern expressions as they shouted a war cry. Then they quickly ran at each other. Di Xinhan's body was like a tall mountain. With every step he took, he left a complete footprint on the ground. The entire arena shook intensely. The mysterious phenomenon was even more horrifying. Before the two approached, the two different auras clashed with each other in midair. It was hard to tell who would win. The heavy footsteps sounded like thunder, making the hearts of all the cultivators present pound heavily. Since the Blue Dragon King Xiao Chen ascended to the highest arena, this was the most difficult battle for the crowd to determine the victor. Who would win and who would lose was very worrying. If someone were to look down from the sky, they would discover that the depth of the footprints left behind by the two men was almost the same. However, at the corners, Xiao Chen's footprints were round and traceless. As for Di Xinhan's footprints, tiny cracks appeared at the edges. Before the crowd's anticipation, the two quickly approached each other. Who would win and who would lose would be revealed in the next moment. Boom! The strong clash happened in an instant. These two were peak experts of the same generation with strong physical bodies. One could not find an opponent in the heavenly starry ocean, and the other could not find an opponent in the Kunlun continent. As for who was stronger and who was weaker, it affected everyone's hearts. As the wind and clouds changed, a huge explosion rang out from the arena. Tiny cracks appeared in the void, as if space was about to be torn apart. Berserk dragons soared and danced around chaotically. In merely one breath, the victor was decided. Di Xinhan retreated quickly, and cracks appeared in his battle armor. Then it shattered, and he fell to the ground with disheveled hair. Then he staggered back a few more steps until he was only a hair's breadth away from the edge of the arena. Xiao Chen took 10 steps back, and blood leaked out of a corner of his lips. He coughed and vomited another 3 mouthfuls of blood. Clearly, he was severely injured. In this kind of head-on confrontation, it was almost impossible for one to not be injured. Xiao Chen clearly knew that using such a method to fight was disadvantageous to him. However, he still chose to do so without hesitation. Aside from the desire in his heart, Xiao Chen also wanted to prove to the Lunar Palace's judges that he, Xiao Chen, could defeat anyone in the heavenly starry ocean using the method that the other party was best at. He wanted to make the Lunar Palace's judges speechless. He wanted to take away the Dragon's Gate's final mountain tablet in this world. Even if Xiao Chen got injured, he would not hesitate to be arrogant for once. So what if he challenged the various martial sages? Di Xinhan paled, looking even more miserable than Xiao Chen's. He smiled bitterly and said, "My heavenly spiritual body is not weaker than your blue dragon war body. Unfortunately, my control over my strength is much weaker." As Di Xinhan spoke, he vomited a few more mouthfuls of blood. However, he did not show much dismay on his face. Instead, he appeared very carefree. Xiao Chen said calmly, "My blue dragon war body is acquired. Your heavenly spiritual body is innate. In terms of control over my strength, I am definitely stronger than you." The reason was easy to explain. For the sake of cultivating the blue dragon war body, Xiao Chen needed to continuously test and temper himself. The innate heavenly spiritual body did not require much testing. It was there from birth. All he needed to do was strengthen and raise his cultivation. Xiao Chen did not stop speaking. He continued, "However, in reality, an innate heavenly spiritual body is much more convenient. If you did not give me time to prepare at the start, the victor would be hard to predict." Di Xinhan smiled and said, "The Blue Dragon King is too humble. Even if I did not give you time to prepare, my chances of defeating you would still be very slim. Your fine control over your strength is much stronger than mine. In this battle, I, Di Xinhan, accept my defeat wholeheartedly. I finally saw the weakness of the heavenly spiritual body. In the future, after I fix it, I will definitely fight with you again." After saying that, Di Xinhan turned around and left in a free and easy manner. Defeated, Di Xinhan also lost. Furthermore, he lost to his strongest point, in one move. Such an ending was very dispiriting. Xiao Chen did not even have the chance to draw his saber. Such a situation appeared in the 10,000-year Four Seas Hero Gathering, turning it into a stage for outsiders. It was easy to imagine the bitterness in the hearts of the cultivators in Bright Moon Plaza. However, although they felt bitter, the many cultivators no longer felt much hatred or jealousy for Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's actions were not cheap tricks. Although his words were arrogant, he relied on his true strength to win every battle. No one could deny that. Whoosh! This time, they did not have to wait for long. A person quickly flew down from the Jade Pavilion. It was the Five Poison Sect's holy son Chen Lin. Why was it that after Xiao Chen defeated his opponent in one move, the crowd paused for a long time before Di Xinhan made his appearance? This battle had only just ended when Chen Lin rushed over to kill his opponent. The reason was simple. Xiao Chen was injured. Strictly speaking, his injuries were not light. Chapter 1105. When Chen Lin fought with Di Xinhan, it looked like he defeated his opponent in one move. However, it was a bitter victory. Chen Lin's white robes were stained with blood, and his internal organs were significantly injured. It would be difficult for him to recover in a short time. Chen Lin narrowed his eyes and smiled evilly. "I know that in your current state, you want to defeat me in one move as well, lest your injuries worsen. Unfortunately, I will not give you this opportunity. My Five Poison Sect is best at torturing our opponents to death over a long period of time." Right after Chen Lin spoke, he did not bow or give Xiao Chen a chance to speak. He simply threw a palm strike. A boundless black poison fog spewed out from his palm. In the blink of an eye, it covered the entire arena. The thick poison fog was something between formless and tangible. It was clearly thick and viscous. However, it seemed somewhat illusory. When one stretched out one's hand to grab it, one would not be able to grab anything. It was extremely strange. This is the Five Poison Sect's Phantom Poison Palm. Everyone in the audience recognized this poisonous fog at once, and a look of astonishment appeared on their faces. This martial technique was extremely vicious. It could not be executed with a cultivation technique alone. It needed to be combined with the king-grade poisons that the Five Poison Sect refined. Once it was executed, it would not be easy to dispel. It was extremely difficult to deal with. Even the great perfection blue-robed emperor of the older generation would have to flee when he ran into this poison fog. This is not good. The people of the five poison sect are difficult to deal with in the first place. Furthermore, Xiaochen was just injured. His body is at its weakest. With the poison fog, he will be even more injured. The fight has not even started, and Chunlin already has the advantage. Given Chunlin's craftiness, he will not clash head-on with Xiaochen. He will keep using the poison fog to torture Xiaochen. Then when he is completely weakened, he will come and humiliate the Blue Dragon King. However, even if Chunlin wins like this, it is too dishonorable. Several people sighed softly. When they saw Chunlin holding the advantage, they did not feel happy. If Chunlin acted like a man, like Di Xinhan, even if he lost, everyone would feel that he was a man. Using poison fog to deal with someone who was just injured and weak was simply unbearable. Haha. Blue Dragon King, if you beg for mercy now, I can give you a quick death. Otherwise, this phantom poison fog will accumulate in your body, worsening your injuries. At that time, you will only feel worse. Chunlin's erratic and cocky laughter came from within the poison fog. Don't think about it for too long. Otherwise, even if you beg me like a dog, I won't give you any chance. He came and went like the wind. Chunlin's figure seemed to have merged with the poisonous mist. It was impossible to discover him. Xiaochen tried a few times within the poison fog, using a strong wind to disperse the poison fog. However, he discovered that it did not work, so he gave up. Instead, he opened his mouth and inhaled. He had Lin had Xiao had Lin had not had before, but he had not had. Lin had Xiao like a Chun had, and had not done had but he had. He aside he, and had. He and. Lin and Chun had Chun he Lin. Aside he could he. Lin. The Lin. Xiao had used hundreds of Holy Spirit veins to fill his heavenly seal, but he had not managed to do so. This bit of poison fog was nothing to him. Xiaochen did not even bother to refine the poison fog. He just let it run its own course in his vast heavenly seal. When the poison fog scattered, Chunlin's figure appeared. His face filled with shock and extreme incredulity. How can this be? You actually swallowed the phantom poison fog whole. Xiaochen could not be bothered with Chunlin. He raised his hand and mercilessly threw a palm strike. A bright moon rose up from behind Xiaochen. Infused with hot-bloodedness, it burned like fire. As Xiaochen threw a palm strike, countless figures surged out from under the bright moon. This palm strike contained lofty sentiments and hot-bloodedness. When Xiaochen threw this palm strike, it was like a flame blazed in everyone's heart, inextinguishable, undefeatable for 1,000 years. They all felt the lofty sentiments and hot-bloodedness of the Blue Dragon King. With the suppression of cultivation and martial techniques, Chunlin could not resist at all when facing Xiaochen's 1,000-year flame, directly getting knocked back. When Chunlin landed, his entire body was covered in wounds, not a single spot intact. If not for Xiaochen's calmness and holding back, this palm strike would have smashed Chunlin into pieces. The moon set, and Xiaochen withdrew his technique. He stood upright with his hands behind his back and looked around calmly. Then he asked sullenly, "Who else wants to fight with me? If you can block 2 moves from me, I, Xiaochen, will be considered defeated and unworthy of taking away the Dragon's Gate's final mountain tablet." The moment Xiaochen said that, a huge commotion broke out. The Blue Dragon King's tyranny was on full display. Someone wanted to say something in rebuttal. However, when they thought about how Xiaochen had fought so far, from the moment he appeared to breaking the bright moon sword dance to defeating all his opponents in one move, no one was spared. Regardless of whether you are an outstanding talent of the past or the immortality Holy Sun, I only need one move to defeat you. After thinking about it, no one could think of anything to say in rebuttal. This only proved that at this moment, the Blue Dragon King, Xiaochen, was indeed qualified to say such words. Among those of the same generation, only he was qualified to do so. Aside from him, no one else could say such a thing. The expressions of the Lunar Palace's 10 judges could not help changing slightly as they discussed in soft voices. After fighting to this point, there was no doubt about Xiaochen's strength. Even if Xiaochen stepped down now, they still had a balance in their hearts and would give the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet to him. There was nothing much to say. No matter how much the judges disliked the Qing emperor's descendants, when faced with Xiao Chen's current glory, they had to admit that the lunar palace still had this bit of magnanimity and confidence. However, Xiao Chen chose to continue fighting. This made things a little uncertain. If it was really as he said and someone blocked one move from him, then the lunar palace might not necessarily give the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet to him. Only the Zodiac Hall's Holy Scion has not appeared yet. Let's wait and see. The leader of the lunar palace's judges said, coming to a conclusion. Whether the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet would be given to Xiao Chen would depend on this final match. The other judges nodded gently, not expressing any objections. Yu Bingyuan, who had been listening to the judges at the side, shook her head slightly. She could not help looking at Xiao Chen, who was in the arena below. In his current state, could he still defeat Chu Yang in one move? Senior brother. In the Jade Pavilion where the Zodiac Hall was, Fu Hongyao called out to Chu Yang, who was about to leave the arena. Fu Hongyao frowned somewhat worriedly. Chu Yang stopped and did not look back. He only sighed and said, Hongyao, I promised you that I would return the humiliation that Xiao Chen brought you 100-fold. I will definitely do as I said. After saying that, Chu Yang leaped up and landed on the highest arena. The instant Chu Yang leaped up, the many cultivators in Bright Moon Plaza suddenly discovered that the sky had turned dark. For some reason, when they looked up, they saw the twinkling stars. The next thing they felt was a piercing pain in their eyes, like needles pricking them. It was extremely unbearable. They circulated their energies to recover for a while before they felt better. They squinted and looked carefully. Then, their mouths gaped open in shock. At some point in time, a sun had appeared in the sky. Its light was simply too dazzling. At the very start, it overwhelmed the radiance of the blazing sun. As a result, many scenes of the boundless starry heavens appeared before everyone's eyes. After a moment, these people recovered from the piercing pain. It's the Sun Palace's Chu Yang. He finally came out. If he gets defeated by Xiao Chen as well, no one will dare to fight with Xiao Chen anymore. Given Xiao Chen's current state, defeating Chu Yang in one move seems rather difficult. Before everyone's eyes, that sun carried the last hope of all the cultivators of the heavenly starry ocean. It slowly landed on the arena, but did not land on the ground. Chu Yang, who was hovering in midair, looked coldly at Xiao Chen, looking like a sovereign. He said indifferently, Blue Dragon King, you are really arrogant. Don't forget, no matter how arrogant you are now, if you do not advance to Martial Emperor in 5 years, you will still die a short-lived death. Xiao Chen stood upright with his hands behind his back. He said calmly, Who can say for sure what will happen in the future? You are Chu Yang, right? I also have some grudges with Zodiac Hall. No matter the result of today's battle, let's write off this grudge. Chu Yang smiled and said, That is exactly what I wanted. However, don't blame me for not reminding you. You had best take out your lunar shadow saber. Otherwise, I'm afraid that after this battle, you will not have the courage to draw your saber again for the rest of your short life. Xiao Chen shook his head, feeling that there was no need to draw his saber. Seeing that Xiao Chen did not budge, showing no intention of drawing his saber, rage flashed on Chu Yang's face. He said sullenly, You short-lived ghost. You have at most 20 more years to live. Don't think too highly of yourself. Today, let's see how you are going to defeat me in one move. You want to take away the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet at the last moment of your life, fulfilling your wish. I, Chu Yang, will not let you have it. Right after Chu Yang spoke, the blazing light on his body burned fiercely like a flame. The piercing light appeared again. The crowd who had experienced it before, quickly closed their eyes lest they get burned. After a while, they circulated their energies to their eyes and carefully opened them to take a look. They saw Chu Yang's aura rising. A fiery red sun appeared around his body, and a blood-red sun mark appeared on his forehead. An indistinct image of a sunbird appeared behind Chu Yang. It was like he had descended into the world with a real sun. The air in Bright Moon Plaza became extremely hot, causing everyone to feel the heat. Sweat continuously dripped from their foreheads. It looks like the rumors are true. Chu Yang did indeed enter closed-door cultivation in the Sun Star. Otherwise, this mysterious phenomenon would not be so horrifying. Do you see the sun mark on his forehead? That is a sign that he has successfully cultivated the sun scripture. Xiaoqun is really in danger. Even in his peak state, he probably cannot defeat Chu Yang. So what if Chu Yang wins? He only has 20 more years to live. Does he really think that he can advance to martial emperor in 5 years? He might as well do Xiaoqun a favor. Chu Yang is right. No matter how outstanding he is, he only has 20 more years to live. 20 years? He can't even live past 50. That is rather sad. No matter what, I should have no problem living to 300 years. When the many cultivators saw Chu Yang's horrifying aura, they started discussing him. A short-lived ghost, a has-been genius, just a first-rate star. From the start of the Four Seas hero gathering until now, this was not the first time Xiaoqun heard such words. Chapter 1106. When everyone looked at Xiaoqun, aside from marveling at his strength, there was also a look of pity in their eyes. Those with malicious thoughts mocked him mercilessly, mocking him to the extreme, taking pleasure in his misfortune. If Xiaoqun did not advance to martial emperor in 5 years, he would have only 20 years left to live. Before he reached 50, he would die young, becoming a meteor streaking across the golden age. This was the blue dragon's sorrow. No matter how strong one's mental state was, anyone would feel heartache when they thought of this. In the past 20-odd years of my life, I have fought my way through many battles. It has already been very difficult. However, when I reached the peak of my generation, I ended up encountering this undeserved calamity. I can defeat many outstanding talents and sweep through the younger generation of the Kunlun continent. In the heavenly starry ocean, I can defeat the outstanding talents of the Four Seas in one move. So what? If I do not advance to martial emperor in 5 years, I will still be a meteor. Right now, no matter how dazzling the light was, it only made people feel that it was a pity. What he revealed was still a look of sympathy. Suddenly, thousands of blood-red white remnant flowers floated up in the hot air. The white remnant flowers were like blood, filled with grief. Every petal radiated the grief of the Blue Dragon King, and the Blue Dragon King's dissatisfaction. Before everyone's eyes, a scarlet waning moon slowly rose up from behind Xiaoqun. Scarlet light filled everyone's eyes. Everywhere they looked was grief. No matter who it was, all the heat in their bodies was swept away at this moment, replaced by a strange melancholy. Everyone felt Xiaoqun's grief and sensed Xiaoqun's dissatisfaction. Under the cold and invincible mask, the Blue Dragon King also had a heart that could be hurt. The sound of gushing water rang out beside Xiaoqun. That was the river of time that Xiaoqun simulated with his mental state. He was on a lone boat, moving along the river under the scarlet moonlight. Time passed and 10,000 years passed. Xiaoqun's expression changed. Before everyone's eyes, it was like he went through reincarnation after reincarnation, changing again and again. Only the scarlet moonlight on his body did not change. The river could not wash away the grief covering his body. Who saw the moon for the first time by the riverside? When did the moon on the river first shine? Generation after generation is endless. The river and moon are alike year after year. Under the illumination of the blood-colored moonlight, Xiaoqun, who was dressed in white and accompanied by thousands of blood-colored flowers, looked exceptionally sad. 1,000-year death. I have a palm that speaks only of sorrow and not joy. Along with the grief in his heart, Xiaoqun took advantage of the situation and threw a palm strike at the dazzling Chu Yang, who was sneering at him with cold eyes. Although my heart is hurt, I do not blame anyone. I did not draw my saber not because I am looking down on you, but because I really do not need to draw my saber. The grief that this palm strike exuded was endless. It contained an endless cycle of reincarnation, a grief that could not be washed away even after thousands of years. Chu Yang's state of mind collapsed in an instant, and he had yet to regain consciousness. The sun halo around Xiaoqun's body, and the sun god bird behind him crumbled under the power of this palm strike. The palm force did not stop there. Chu Yang, who was sent flying, crashed into a jade pavilion in the air, startling the people inside and causing them to scatter. In that instant, the jade pavilion shattered. The shattered pieces were like a small mountain, burying the severely injured and unconscious Chu Yang. This allowed Chu Yang to preserve his final bit of face, not letting anyone see his tattered clothes and disheveled hair, looking like a sorry beggar. A strong sense of sorrow pervaded the square, reverberating in everyone's heart. The Blue Dragon King Xiaoqin's dissatisfaction, grief, and pain were all expressed vividly in this palm strike. Everyone could clearly feel it, just like they did. Xiaoqin stopped circulating his energy and stood upright with his hands behind his back. The aura of grief slowly vanished after the remnant flowers vanished and the blood moon vanished. Plop! Chu Yang crawled out of the rubble on the ground with much difficulty. When he looked at Xiaoqin, who was in the highest arena, his eyes filled with shock. That earlier palm strike was indeed terrifyingly mighty. However, if that were all, it would not have been able to injure him so severely. The most important thing was that the state of grief contained in that palm strike instantly crumbled Chu Yang's mental state. His momentum and fighting spirit all vanished. The instant Xiaoqin attacked, he crippled most of his martial techniques. At this moment, Chu Yang had nothing to say. He accepted his defeat wholeheartedly. However, he absolutely would not let this go. He, Chu Yang, was the strongest person in the Zodiac Hall. Since his debut, he had never suffered a defeat in the heavenly starry ocean. If not for Di Xinhan's heavenly spiritual body and shocking physical body, he would not have found a true opponent. However, today Chu Yang lost so cleanly. This was simply unacceptable. The many old men of the Zodiac Hall followed Fu Hongyao out of the Jade Pavilion to check on his injuries. There's no need. I'm fine. Let's go. Chu Yang waved his hand and wiped off the blood on his lips. Then he walked out of the rubble and glanced at Xiaoqin, who was in the arena. He said coldly, "Xiaoqin, let me tell you this. Today's matter is definitely not over. I, Chu Yang, will not admit defeat so easily." After saying that, Chu Yang rode on the sun god bird of the Zodiac Hall and quickly left Bright Moon City, not willing to stay any longer. Defeated. Xiaoqin defeated Chu Yang in one move, shattering the last hope of the many cultivators of the heavenly starry ocean. Even now, Xiaoqin did not draw his saber. Such a result was somewhat hard to accept. The Four Seas Hero Gathering was supposed to be an occasion for the outstanding talents to show up one after another. They would display their martial techniques and fight an exciting battle, showing off their glory and letting their names spread throughout the heavenly starry ocean. After that, the many holy scions would go up and display even more exciting and dazzling battles, showing off the glory of their holy lands. However, today, because of Xiaoqin's appearance, the Four Seas Hero Gathering, which had been passed down for tens of thousands of years, turned this banquet into a stage for him alone. What should have been a suspenseful and exciting battle turned into an instant defeat in one move, destroying the illustrious reputation of the many holy scions. "Yichen, are you not going up?" In the Jade Pavilion where the Northern Sea Alliance was, Yichen had been watching the competition silently, not saying a word. At this moment, someone in the pavilion asked him. He smiled and shook his head. "Never mind. Without Brother Xiao, I would not even be able to become the blue-robed emperor. Furthermore, with my martial techniques, I am definitely not a match for Xiaoqin. Xiaoqin has ruined this Four Seas Hero Gathering. The judges of the Lunar Palace will probably not be happy about it." Yi Chen sighed and said, "Who could have thought that he alone could suppress all the outstanding talents of the heavenly starry ocean? Furthermore, he suppressed them so miserably." Just as everyone discussed in low voices, a cold voice rang out in the palace where the Lunar Palace's judges were, sounding extremely dignified. "Blue Dragon King Xiaoqin, the 10 of us judges have unanimously decided that no one in this Four Seas Hero Gathering can surpass you. Even if we go back another 10,000 years, only the Qing Emperor back then could compare to you. Hence, the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet belongs to no one else." A rectangular brocade box floated down from the sky. Xiaoqin stretched out his hand to catch it. After he opened it, he saw a palm-sized stone tablet in the exquisite brocade box. The words Dragon's Gate were written on it, giving off a vast aura. With just a few glances, Xiaoqin felt like he had fallen into a boundless abyss. The stone tablet contained a vast and boundless, overwhelming power. It made one feel incredibly insignificant. There was a huge pressure in the depths of Xiao Chen's heart. Endless dragon roars echoed in his ears, and a battlefield of blood and fire appeared before him. An imposing figure on a horse held his saber horizontally, leading many Dragon's Gate disciples and sweeping through the place. That imposing figure was accompanied by 13 azure-clad experts as they fought with many horrifying enemies. Among the enemies were the strong deity race martial emperors, the dragon kings of the four seas and the 7-colored dragon marquises under Neptune, the many holy lands of the heavenly starry ocean, and the even more horrifying deep abyss demon monarchs. Kill! 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 Murderous cries resounded, and Xiao Chen's eyes turned scarlet. He thought to himself, oh no. He quickly retreated and closed the brocade box. Then he performed a cupped fist salute and said, "Many thanks to the seniors of the Lunar Palace for helping me." Xiao Chen knew that the stone tablet before him could not be wrong. It was the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet that the Qing Emperor personally made. Although it was only palm-sized now, its true size would be revealed when it landed on the ground. You came for the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet. Now that you have obtained it, please leave. The Four Seas Hero Gathering still has to continue. The dignified and cold voice contained a trace of displeasure as it started to send the guest off. Xiao Chen placed the brocade box on his back and performed another cupped fist salute to express his thanks. Then he glanced at the lunar palace in the sky. It seemed like someone was watching him there. Now, Xiao Chen somewhat understood why that old woman had stayed in the Meditation Moon Palace for 10,000 years. The words on the Meditation Moon Palace's signboard were exactly the same as the words on the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet. Why was the Meditation Moon Palace's signboard written by the Qing Emperor? Perhaps only that old woman knew what happened to it. Xiao Chen shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Then he drifted away before everyone's eyes. On the small arena, Long Fei and Qi Wuxia felt bored, so they followed Xiao Chen and left as well. As everyone watched Xiao Chen leave, most of them showed respect in their eyes. Defeating the outstanding talents of the Four Seas in one move, Xiao Chen truly lived up to the title of Blue Dragon King. This was a form of respect for the strong. However, there were also a few gazes that appeared extremely complicated, making it hard to guess what they were thinking. After Yu Bingyan spoke, she glanced at Xiao Chen's back before silently turning to leave. The young treasure master, Yi Ling, had a faint smile on his face. He said meaningfully, "History is always shockingly similar. Unfortunately, advancing to Martial Emperor in 5 years is still an insurmountable hurdle for you. You are destined not to be the next Qing Emperor. The future of the heavenly starry ocean is still in my hands. I'll leave the heaven-subduing rock to you for now." The Eastern Sea Divine Dragon Palace's young palace master, Lung Xiaofan, showed a sullen expression and did not say anything. He only whispered a few words to the old man beside him, and the old man left to carry out his orders. If Xiao Chen were here, he would not be unfamiliar with this old man. This was the leader of the 4 old men who led the chase in Despair City. Back then, this old man had been severely injured by Xiao Chen. Now he had already recovered from his injuries. His strength seemed to have improved slightly. Outside Bright Moon City, Xiao Chen landed on the surface of the sea and met up with Long Fei and Qi Wuxia. "Congratulations, Brother Xiao. You got what you wanted," the two said with cupped fist salutes. "You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."